Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto became the next sage of 6 paths at a young age. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It is the 4th anniversary of the day when Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage of Konoha, sacrificed his life to seal the kyuubi inside of his son Naruto. Although to the younger generation and those outside the village who don't know much about the ninja arts, it's defeat. Unfortunately for young Naruto, he was barely 30 minutes old from birth before he became its container. What most people don't know, the only other person knowing being Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage, is that Naruto was able to meet the kyuubi when he was 2, although he wasn't able to talk to it completely until he turned 3, which was also when he found out that he was Naruto Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. When told to Hiruzen, and finding out how much he understood, the Hokage realized that like his father, and probably like Itachi Uchiha, a once-in-a-decade super prodigy. This made Hiruzen wonder if this means that Naruto might be the next sage of 6 paths, especially since a few legends state that his 3rd child was an Uzumaki, or the sage himself. Right now, Naruto was heading towards the Hokage's tower, where he would be the safest because while most people have happy birthdays, his is rather to see if the villagers would let him live to see next day. The Hokage decided not to take chances by sending in a small squad of ANBU to watch over the boy because the villagers well use that as an excuse to destroy him. He also had Ibiki Marino act like a bodyguard, or as he puts it, a babysitter, since nobody would have the nerve to mess with the head of the torture and interrogation department. As the awkward pair were walking, with the villagers and a small amount of ninjas, the ones that are civilian-born, and or has members on the council, glaring at them from a distance, Ibiki kept that look on his face. The look that makes most ANBU wants to make sure they have a spare change of underwear on hand. He heard a small sigh from his charge. Geez, they call me names like demon and monster just because I was born on this day, and yet they are making the kyuubi seem like better company, Naruto said, while kyuubi gave a small thank you in return, agreeing completely after seeing what its container has to experience. Yeah, I know, kid, Ibiki said, impressed at how quickly the boy has been growing, yet at the same time, disappointed at the reason behind it. Yet when the time comes, you're going to have to decide whether to run and hide from the hate, or take a stand and face it in any way you can. Naruto gave an even bigger sigh. Before he could give a reply, a kunai with a tag landed between them. With alarms going off in his head, Naruto surprised Ibiki by quickly pushing Ibiki hard enough for him to stumble away just in time to avoid the explosion. When he recovered, he noticed that Naruto wasn't so lucky due to the amount of damage it has done to his body. When he got to the boy and turned him over, 6 ANBU appeared surrounding them, 5 acting like a barrier, while the 6th got started on treating him on the spot. When the medic opened his eyes, to their surprise, instead of the usual blue, they were a purplish gray with round circles spreading out like ripples, with a tomo inside the inner ring. In what could be considered a regular room for Naruto, to the displeasure of so many, he is currently lying in bed, still unconscious from taking the full brunt of the blast. Right now he is being protected by 4 ANBU, 2 to guard the door and protect him from the doctors and nurses who would try to finish the boy off, and 2 in the shadows in the room to make sure none of the ninjas try to attempt any more assassinations. Ibiki gave them the orders needed to ensure Naruto's safety before leaving to inform the Hokage, while the ANBU medic left to gather the stuff needed, which the staff can't do a thing about because standing in the way of an ANBU and their goals is suicidal. Both the doctor and a nurse, individually, tried to get in under the guise of checking up on him, which didn't fool them one bit. The doctor even went as far as to use the fact that the civilian council has given them permission, only to get arrested in the process, and giving the Hokage a little leverage. The nurse went as far as to ask why they defend the boy for what he did 4 years ago. One of the ANBU, wearing a cat mask and has long purple hair, countered by asking why they are defining Minato's final wish. The nurse gave a light huff and walked away. This was the flaw throughout the village, the locals not wanting to admit that they are wrong about something they never bothered to understand. As for young Mr. Naruto Uzumaki, he woke to a familiar clearing. When he first met Kyuubi, she was in what looked like a dungeon, yet being 2, he was too young to understand anything. By his 3rd birthday, when he has proven himself to be a prodigy, by doing everything earlier than your average toddler, which involved being forced to grow up faster than most, he understood that nobody deserves to be locked up, so he changed the entire area that looked like a huge meadow on the mountains, with a forest on one side and a beach on the other. To put simply, it was the kind of place that most Nara men want to go to when they want to avoid the women of the clan. Usually he would find Kyuubi either sitting in the middle of the meadow, with a smile too as they greeted each other, or he would catch her sleeping on her back, paws spread out, her tail sticking straight out and her tongue hanging out of her mouth, like how Naruto would find some of the Inuzuka dogs whenever the day seems nice for them. Sometimes he would either just lay down with his head on her belly or join her in a nap, or he would mess with her by rubbing her belly, which gained a pleasurable moan, something she would never admit to. This time she was giving him a sad look, sure he would live through this, like he would everything else, but still she is never happy whenever the blonde's visits are forced due to bigotry. Well, as much as I want to yell at you for that little stunt, I'll let it slide since it was done to save another life, QB said, plus considering what were to happen if those villagers think they could get away with attacking a ninja. Yeah, what would stop them from attacking other ninjas, especially Gramps? Naruto said before looking at his friend. By the way, after the explosion, and before I blacked out, my eyes started to feel weird. Any ideas why? Knowing that this question might pop up sooner or later, and wishing that it was much later, like say a few years, when he graduates from the academy, you have just awakened an ancient dojutsu and bloodline, which was also a became prototype for another bloodline. She started to explain, getting Naruto's attention when the words dojutsu and bloodline were mentioned. Have you heard about the Sage of Six Paths? You mean that guy that some people say is supposed to be the original ninja? Naruto asked, the one who was supposedly the one to create what they called the foundation of ninjas everywhere? Yes, although like some stories, no matter how true are, become forgotten in time. QB said, anyway, his real name is Hagoromo Otsutsuki, and what you don't know is that he was the one to capture the Shinju, the ten-tailed beast, into himself, making him the first container. She gave Naruto a brief history lesson about the man and how she came to be. Anything more would be a spoiler alert, considering I found the info on Nerdopedia. As for your eyes, you have just awakened his version of the Rinnegan, which would be the ripples you will see. The tome you will also see, which would increase in number in time, is what served as the base for the Sharingan, which Hagoromo gained after he sealed Shinju into himself. Naruto was shocked over the fact that he had something in common with the Uchiha clan. Wow, there has got to be some kind of irony in there somewhere, he said, getting a mixture of a snort and a giggle from Kyubi because she has seen how high and mighty the Uchiha clans make themselves out to be. Anyway, what can my eyes do and how is my Sharingan different from the Uchiha's? The Rinnegan part of your eyes allows you to gain control all of the elements, including a sixth one that has rarely been heard by anybody, the yin/yang element, which involves making anything through imagination. Kyubi explained. After seeing Naruto went from shock over the sixth element to an evil smirk, she knew that a few poor, some well-deserving, saps are going to go through a whole new level of pranks. As for the Sharingan part, while you would be missing some of the strongest attacks that only the Uchiha can use, like theirs, you can copy all kinds of techniques, no matter what kind they are, and analyze your opponents. Yet the one thing that makes yours better than the Uchiha version is that it protects you from their eyes in more way than one, as well as see through even the strongest of genjutsu. Naruto absorbed everything. So what you're saying is that I might be the next Sage of Six Paths? He asked, getting a nod in return. And did any of those abilities involve understand seals? Kyubi shook her head. No, good chance you have inherited it from your parents, she started to explain. Minato was considered a real once-in-a-blue-moon genius, especially when it comes to seals, and Kushina came from a clan where Fuinjutsu is second nature for them. Meanwhile, while this was going on, Ibiki is at the Hokage's office giving him the heads up. While he was angry that one of his own ninja would go as far as to use an exploding tag to kill him, not caring who they take out with him. Our medic has fixed him up enough, don't worry, he should still be fine, and is still working on him at the hospital, and I have the ANBU keeping guard on the brat, Ibiki said, getting a relief sigh from Hiruzen, although this was before he threw him a curveball, especially with his new bloodline waking up, which is something you are better off seeing for yourself. Hiruzen was surprised at this because as far as he knew, the only thing that the Uzumaki clan had that would be considered bloodlines is their longevity and ability to control demons. Namikaze, on the other hand, were mainly ninjas with flair for and everything else. The only thing missing was a bloodline. And what happened to the ninja responsible? He asked, getting really sick and tired of people undermining his authority, especially the civilian council. Tell me you plan on giving that. I'm hoping you plan on giving him the works for what he has done and who has put him up to it. I will when the Ice Queens are done beating the tar out of him, considering how overprotective they are of the kid, Ibiki said, getting a shiver from the Hokage due to the fact that there are things more scary than paperwork. Deciding to change the subject, especially from remembering all the times whenever he got caught reading his students' works and came close to kiss a certain part of his anatomy goodbye, ANBU, send word to all council members that there will be a mandatory meeting within the next hour, and they will be required to attend or else face Ibiki and Enko for insubordination. Hiruzen ordered. The ANBU shivered at this because even though they were considered elite, even they would never want to face any kind of punishment involving them, and find Kakashi and tell him to get his lazy ass to the hospital, or else he'll be chasing that damn cat for the rest of the year without both chakra and his precious eye. The ANBU gave a slight shiver as they acknowledged his orders and left. Even Ibiki shivered because that cat would make even Kagez consider retirement. If it's okay with you, Lord Hokage, I'll go gather the necessary information for the meeting, he said, getting a nod in return. When he started to leave, Hiruzen flicked out of the office. When he arrived in the lobby, he started to walk towards the room that is reserved for Naruto when he was stopped by a nurse. "Lord Hokage, you need to tell the ANBU to let the doctors in so that they can do their jobs," she practically ordered, only to get the evil eye, along with some killer intent in return. "So you want me to tell my ANBU to stop doing their jobs so that they can let the doctors in to try and act like they are doing their jobs?" Hiruzen asked, while causing the nurse to turn around with a look he knew all too well. "And let me remind you that if the doctors would have succeeded, then the QB would break out and finish what it started. And whose fault do you think it would be?" When the nurse's eyes went wide at this, exactly, it would be the fault of the person who decided to give the QB a reason to attack, especially if they are through the eyes of the person it was contained in. After sidestepping the nurse and reaching his destination, he came upon a commotion between the doctors and the ANBU standing between them and their intended target. "Okay, I already have a good idea on what this about, and I do remember you two from the times I brought the boy in, and you personally blew me away," the monkey Kage said, causing the two to sweat badly because they know that all those times of blowing off a Kage is going to bite them in the ass finally. "So now I can say is that you are fired from the hospital, and I'll make sure you will never start a practice or work in one in this village until you can fully remember the meaning of the Hippocratic Oath and how it implies to everyone." "You can't do that, you demon lover," one of the doctors said with a scalpel in hand, only to lose his head in the process. "Now do you want to join your friend, or are you willing to walk away on your own power?" the Hokage said. The doctor was shocked at what her colleague has done. She knew that he hated the boy with a passion, but she didn't know that it would be bad enough to where he would actually attack the Hokage in such a manner. Giving him a small bow and leaving, she turned to ask, "Why do you defend that thing? You know what it has done." This was when Kakashi came in. "Oh, we know, that is why we are making sure that nothing happens to Naruto," he said, getting a glare from the woman. "The question is what happens if you kill the boy and it turns out that not only has the QB has been released, yet you've also killed an innocent boy to make it happen." The doctor walked away with a lot to think about. The two walked up to the door. "Get somebody to clean up this door and don't let anybody in, especially if it's somebody from the council," Hiruzen ordered, causing one of the ANBU to go to the morgue. They walked in just as Naruto was just starting to come around. Hiruzen took a seat nearby while Kakashi stood in front of the bed, both hoping that Minato's legacy is okay. When his eyes opened, both gasped in shock when they could see that Naruto's eyes were different. Instead of their usual blue, they were a purplish gray with ripples surrounding the iris, with a tome in each other. "Hey Gramps, Cyclops, how's it going?" Naruto asked, getting them to snap out of their little stoop. "Naruto, do you know what happened to you tonight?" Hiruzen asked, while Kakashi was feeling annoyed with the Cyclops nickname, and they could hear some snickering in the background from the ANBU there. "And what happened to your eyes?" "You mean besides the usual threats to my life?" Naruto responded, making Hiruzen feeling guilty for his lack of action. "Anyway, I was walking with Mr. Personality while we were walking. He waved his fingers when he mentioned Zabiki, getting a snicker throughout the room. Then the next thing I know, a kunai lands between us and I notice a tag on the end of it. The only thing I can think of doing is making sure Biki was safe, so I used all of my strength to push him out of the way. By the time he was a few feet away from me, that was when the tag went off. This caused everybody in the room to be angry because of how far the villagers go to get some revenge, even at the cost of others. And when I woke up, I talked to a friend. Hiruzen knew which friend he was talking about, and Kakashi figured it out due to how close he is with the boy's family. That was when I noticed my eyes were different. Almost like I was seeing things I couldn't have before." "And did she tell you what happened to your eyes?" Hiruzen asked. "Yes, she said it was the same bloodline that the Sage of Six Paths had, which is the Rinnegan that helped start the Sharingan eyes," Naruto explained. "And there is one other thing, but I want to tell you when there aren't so many heirs." Hiruzen knew that whenever Naruto said something like this, then he knew it was something important, and he was the only person within the entire village, besides the Ikarakus, who he can trust a secret with, and anybody who wants to know would get something up the ass for their troubles, and the boot would be the least of their worries. He nodded and they chatted for a bit, mainly about Naruto's dojutsu so he can have something to tell the council. After a few minutes, Hiruzen left by Leaf Shunshin so that he make the meeting on time. Naruto then turned towards Kakashi and asked, "Hey Kakashi, does the Sharingan let you see through clothes?" Considering that he is the only person in the room who has some experience with the eye. "No, but I do know that the Byakugan is said to be capable of such things," Kakashi answered, him being an open pervert, considering how often he reads the Ika books, wondering if it could. "Why do you ask?" "Oh, it must be the Rinnegan part because the ANBU in the corner doesn't seem to be wearing anything underneath her uniform," Naruto answered, causing two responses, the said ANBU to go red all over enough to give off a glow, which was followed by Kakashi and the other ANBU to faint at the thought. "Wow, now I gotta remember who owes me lunch now." This was when the ANBU doctor walked in and noticed the scene. "What happened here?" she asked, after finally getting the supplies needed and keeping the hospital staff from interfering her duties. Oh, just flushing out a couple of pervs, Naruto answered before turning towards the embarrassed Anbu. What's up? Naruto, can you really see through my clothes? The Anbu asked. No, I was making that part up. Why? Naruto answered before it clicked why she asked, and why she was blushing all over. Oh, was his only response. Which means Shizuka will, or might, be appearing in my other version of this story. Anyway, I won't pull this, but feel free to tell me in either a review or PM. I'm planning on giving Naruto and the girls each different weapons. While I plan to give Naruto Sephiroth a sword from FFVI, the others I want to give different weapons to, like Sakura with gauntlets. Tenten would be the exception since she is like a walking arsenal anyway, plus her obsession with weapons would be the perfect running gag throughout the FIC. Just make sure the girl gets a completely different weapon, or if you have to give 2 or 3 weapons, like for example swords, make sure they are different styles from different countries. Hiruzen is in the council chambers, listening as the civilian council bickered on and on about being interrupted with enjoying the Kyuubi festival since it was the only thing they were allowed to enjoy since both Hiruzen and the Fire Daimyo put a ban on all forms of fox hunting, including the ones involving Naruto. Which was the main reason why Hiruzen chose the boys' guards carefully in order to make sure nobody tries to use some sort of loophole to break the law. The Hokage, main council and clan heads just shook their heads, except for Fugaku Uchiha, who had a constipated look on his face, wondering who the bigger kid was, the children or their parents on the council. Hiruzen looked at his former teammates and old friend, all 4 of them wishing that it wouldn't be so hard to just find somebody to take over their jobs so that they can finally retire happily, especially Danzo who wishes that he can retire to some tropical place. By the way, the Danzo in this FIC won't have bandages, mainly because I have him as a good guy and I'm not sure if the bandages in the canon were because of Kyuubi or because of the Sharingan eyes he had implanted on himself. On here, he is pretty much complete, meaning he still has both original eyes and both complete arms. All he has are a bunch scars all over his body. Deciding that they have waited long enough, if you don't become quiet within this very second, those making too much noise will be listening to the whole Flames of Youth speech from Mike Guy. Hiruzen yelled out, causing the entire room to become super quiet, super fast. Even the crickets outside went silent, even though the room was supposed to be soundproof. While it might be considered cruel, especially since he was still a Chunin, like his father, might die, both had this way of clearing an entire area from the family's Flame of Youth speech to their nice guy pose, and heaven forbid if Guy were to find a pupil like him, or worse, find a woman willing to give birth to one. Seeing how everyone has calmed down, over an hour ago, somebody was crazy enough to attack young Naruto Uzumaki while he was being escorted to my office. Hiruzen started to say when the civilian council interrupted. That demon deserves to die for attacking our village. One yelled out. We need to avenge the 4th's death. Another yelled. Before a third popped up, one more word and you will all be paying a visit to the torture and integration department, along with the would-be assassin. Hiruzen said, getting them to shut up, while some were starting to growl. The first person to speak up, Hayashi Hyuga, a close friend of Minato Namikaze, asked about the boy's well-being. How is Naruto doing, Lord Hokage? While considered royalty alongside the Uchihas and Senju, and when compared to the Uchihas on being a bunch of stiffs, thanks to his wife and twin daughters, he was becoming more open with his emotions. The boy is fine. The Kyuubi has already repaired the major damage, as well as the ninja that was escorting him, Hiruzen said, causing most of the room to sigh in relief, although the ninja tried to use an explosive tag, despite the risk of life. That ninja should have been killed along with the demon, a civilian shouted out. For what, doing his job? If we were to do that, then we might as well do that to everybody, including each other, Suminazuka said, causing them to growl. So who was the ninja assigned to watch over the pup? Ibiki Marino, Hiruzen said, causing a slight gasp to go through the room for 2 different reasons. For those who are or were ninjas, except for the Uchiha, it was because they are close friends with the man due to how much he has went through in just a few short years. He hit Chunin, from his team being killed by one of Kiri's strongest and sadist swordsmen, Kisame Hashigaki, to losing his brother in a fire caused by the traitor Aoi Rokusho. Anybody willing to go as far as trying to kill one of their own just so they would have a reason to use the past as an excuse to attack somebody who lost more than they did. The civilian council was the complete opposite because of the fact that they knew they were in trouble. While they agreed to take the risk of having one of their own who are ninja, but loyal mainly to them, try to take out the boy, and his escort would be collateral damage at most, but taking out somebody as important as Ibiki Marino, that would be suicide. Especially since retribution is one of Ibiki's specialties when somebody tries to cross him. So is Ibiki interrogating the ninja now? Inochi asked, concerned about both the boy and his friend. Depends on how much the Ice Queens have left for him, Hiruzen said, causing everyone, including the ANBU in the room, to shiver, because of the fact that those four see Naruto as a little brother, and like overprotective sisters if you try to harm them in any way, and then be ready to notify your next of kin. Deciding to continue, and because of the failed attempt on his life, Naruto has awakened an old dojutsu, one that has only been mentioned in legends, and more powerful than the Sharingan and Byakugan combined. This got everybody's attention, especially the civilian council, most of which don't like the idea of the demon becoming any stronger while the rest see potential in gaining more power, and Fugaku, due to him and his clan soaking in the fact that they have the most powerful eyes in the world. Shikaku Nara, the Jonin commander, and head of a clan full of lazy-ass geniuses, or at least whenever their wives don't catch them sleeping on the job, spoke up. Naruto got the Rinnegan? He said, while thinking Minato, Kushina, your son is making you both seem less troublesome. This definitely got every ninja and ex-ninja's attention since the Rinnegan became as mysterious as the Sage of Six Paths. Everything about the man died just as he did, as well as those that knew him personally or knew of him during that time period. Although that never stops Naruto and Jiraiya, his most loyal student and supplier of his favorite books, from making cracks about Hiruzen's age. Not just any Rinnegan, but one that helps starts a clan, Hiruzen said, causing most of the clan heads' eyes to pop out of their skulls, while Fugaku was seething in anger. That's right, Naruto has the Rinnegan that also served as the prototype for the Sharingan. Meanwhile, Naruto is at the hospital talking to Ayame, daughter of Tuchi, owner of Ichiraku's Ramen, telling her about that prank on Kakashi. She was laughing hard because the boy was not afraid to exploit a person's weakness when it comes to pranks. She laughed harder when he told her how he accidentally made up a truth, and that Kakashi and that one male ANBU fainted again when the female ANBU accidentally blurted out the truth. While Ayame might have a small crush on Kakashi, the one thing that irritated the hell out of her was that he always read those perverted Ika books when he isn't busy. Besides a usual visit to the boy, Ayame was there to deliver some ramen to the boy with the Hokage's blessing, mainly to annoy the hospital staff. While people have considered hospital food to taste so bad that it just might kill you, the staff tried to make it lethal for the boy by pouring some poison into his food, which proved unsuccessful since the Kyuubi helped not only remove the toxin, but also immunity to it to avoid a second attempt. Said staff responsible for the deed was executed, despite the attempted intervention of the civilian council, claiming that they were doing the village a service by trying to avenge the fourth. So Naruto, what happened to your eyes? Ayame asked, curious about how his eyes went from ocean blue to ripple purple. Thinking about his words carefully, especially when it involves Kyuubi, it's a family bloodline, something that I need to be careful on since those stupid villagers would try harder to get rid of me, Naruto said, causing everybody in the room to shake their heads, and since this bloodline involves my eyes, that means I'll probably have the Uchihas and the Hyugas to deal with. While Ayame tried to keep the boy's spirits up, the ANBU in the room were thinking something differently about what the boy just said earlier. Right now the only Hyugas the boy might have to deal with are those of the main house and the clan elders, while Hayashi might be more acceptable, considering what his wife would do to him if he didn't. The Uchihos would be the biggest issue because of the fact that they are used to being the most powerful in the village, and once word gets out that the young Uzumaki has a dojutsu that might be more powerful than theirs, they would try to destroy him to satisfy their bruised egos. A month later. Hiruzen is going over some important papers, while destroying the usual requests to get rid of Naruto, either through death or exiled, and to try and use ninjas for personal tasks, which was just from the civilians. He has received reports from the ANBU guarding Naruto on how most of the Uchihas have constantly tried to kill the boy because of the fact that if this boy were to restart the Uzumaki clan in Konoha, especially if the CRA was to be put into play, plus the possibility that the blonde would have Senju blood in him, then he would bring back two clans back, then the Uchiha clan would be back in second place, possibly tied with the Hyugas. What nobody knew was the possibility of a third clan being brought back, well except maybe a very small few, like Minato's closest friends and Shikaku's, since the Nara clan are known to figure things out very quickly, but too lazy to say anything unless it was brought up. What made it worse was when the Hyuga elders decided to use some of the branch members, some of which were also Konoha ninjas, to take out Naruto. This brought them down because of the fact that they thought that they would have clan immunity when they say that they were handling a threat to the clan. Hiruzen countered by pointing out that rule only works if the threat was from another member within the clan. Outside, it's considered attempted murder, and the power of the village exceeds those of the clans. Now Hayashi selected a new council that was at least around his age, and right now the hardest thing he is going through is getting the clan to become reunified by removing the caged bird seal and merging both houses together. The month also produced a couple of things useful. Flashback. It was the day after that Naruto was put in the hospital and Hiruzen was waiting for the boy to show up at his office, along with Yugao and Itachi, who were making sure that the boy showed up in one piece. The one thing he is getting sick of are people going behind his back to attack Naruto in the name of Minato, while also the civilian council trying to see what loopholes they can exploit. Right now, with all the power the civilian council has, he can't help but wonder if they threw in a few laws between Minato's fall and his return to the seat, so he has his two former teammates going over the laws to see if anything seems out of the ordinary in order to balance things out again. Plus, thanks to the info that Ibiki from the would-be assassin, the council member that orchestrated the whole thing, lost all their power and is now going to be in prison along with those company of those who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty, in more ways than one. A soft knock was heard. "Come in, Naruto," Hiruzen said. When the boy came in with his escorts, "Hey Gramps, how far are you in that book?" Naruto asked, not resisting the urge to put the old man on the spot. Hiruzen felt a slight shiver when Yugao and the other female ANBU were giving him a look that promised some kind of retribution, whether he is innocent or not. Something he picked up from his wife when his favorite student started to write said books. While as much as he would try to get even with the boy, he knows that it results in brutally humiliating retaliation. "Anyway, Naruto, you have something you wanted to discuss with me?" Hiruzen said, trying to get the attention off of him. "Yeah, but like I said," Naruto said, knowing that his adopted grandfather would understand the meaning. Hiruzen nodded his head at this. "ANBU, give us some privacy, including all of you in the shadows," he said, causing puffs of smoke to appear at where they were located at. After activating the privacy seal, "So Naruto, what was that one thing you didn't want to discuss in front of others?" Naruto gave a deep breath, knowing that even though the old man knows about the whole truth behind the attack, about how Madara Uchiha came along and destroyed Konoha, but also destroyed his family and had a big hand on why he was alone in the world, yet what he had to say might be past too much. "I think I can bring the QB out without killing the both of us," he said, while beginning a countdown inside his head. When he got to 0, "Naruto, are you crazy? You know how crazy the villagers will get if the QB gets out," Hiruzen said out of concern, not just for Naruto, but for QB as well, since she was basically not only keeping the boy alive, but also his closest friend, since most of the parents tried to keep their kids away from him, even if it does prove that you are both separate beings. Seeing that the old man is done ranting, "Yeah, if she wants that option," Naruto said, really getting the old man's full attention, deciding to explain the part about how he can somehow read seals like he would a book and how QB believes it might be an inherited factor from both parents, and what QB wants is to be released as a full-blooded human so that way she can actually have a second chance in life, giving the old man a new surprised look. Plus, considering the fact that she has been nothing more than a prisoner since Mito Uzumaki sealed her inside herself, I don't blame her for wanting to get back out to experience freedom again. Hiruzen's face went from surprise to solemn. Ever since Naruto became a link between him and QB, he started to get a new understanding about the nine-tailed beasts and how badly they have been represented throughout history. From what he has learned from QB, is that all they wanted in life is to enjoy it the same way humans do, but it is because of humans forcing them inside the bodies of other humans that led to how they are perceived, as well as their containers. In some ways, it just goes to show that the most dangerous thing in the world is human ignorance and human negligence, while the so-called demons are just living creatures that are dragged into things they don't want anything to do with. "I sense that there is a but coming," he said. The one thing he learned a long time ago is that no matter how good things sound, there is always a but coming to remind you that there is always a catch involved. Well, considering that when QB gets to be reborn as a human, she'll end up having human chakra, meaning that her demonic chakra will have to go somewhere, meaning into me, Naruto said, with Hiruzen understanding right away where this was going, showing why he is known as the Professor, which in turn would make me a Hanyu, and I'm not sure what kind of changes I'll be going through. Knowing when to leave things alone when he needs to, and I'm to assume that you want something from me, am I correct? Hiruzen said. "I need training," Naruto said, "not just with my eyes, but everything I would need to learn to become a ninja, seals and all the basic stuff I would need to learn. I know that I can wait for the academy, but I get a bad feeling about it." While glad that the boy knew that he would need help in getting stronger, he felt disappointment because the boy's feelings were founded. Before he came back into power, the civilian council took over the academy and made a whole bunch of ridiculous changes, making it friendlier towards their kids, while making it seem like child's play to those from ninja clans or have parents who are ninjas. What made it more ridiculous was when they replaced a good portion of the interest classes like Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu for things like etiquette and flower arrangements for the girls. And considering how a good portion of the village feels about Naruto, chances are the council will try hard to sabotage the boy's progress so that way he would become an easy target for anybody. "Okay, I'll make the arrangements," Hiruzen said. "If that is it, would you please tell the ANBU who are on guard duty to come back in?" When the old man went back to his paperwork after canceling the jutsu, QB told him the perfect prank that would make the old monkey crack. "Hey, by the way, a friend of mine told me that they've seen the fourth do some kind of clones to do the paperwork, although I thought clones were just illusions. Naruto said. Hiruzen knew what clones Naruto was talking about. Oh, you mean the shadow clone jutsu? He said, smiling at the boy's never-ending quest for knowledge. Well, you normally would be right, but shadow clones are completely solid. Yeah, but wouldn't he have to read the papers anyway to find out what they said? Naruto asked, knowing what the next answer would do. Oh no, the memory of the clone gets passed on to the owner, Hiruzen said before the smiling face dropped to a grim face, when it clicked on what Minato's secret was. Luckily Naruto already stepped out to tell the ANBU to give him a few minutes when Minato. You sneaky son of a bitch. Flashback ends. After using every curse he could think of, while also making sure to not reveal any secrets that can get the boy into even deeper trouble, he made arrangements for the boy to start his training earlier than most clan prodigies would. From Itachi and Kakashi helping with his dojutsu and ninjutsu, all the way to help from the wives of the clan heads teaching everything he would learn if Minato and Kushina were still around. The ramen obsession, completely inherited from both. He even taught the boy a few things, along with some of basics on seals, considering that the best teacher for the job is Jiraiya, as long as he isn't too focused on his research. Thanks to Naruto learning the shadow clone technique, his training went faster than it would most of his lifetime. This was when a familiar knock was heard. Come in, Naruto, Hiruzen said. When the boy came in with a big smile, so I take it that today is the big day. Yeah, I'm ready to set Kyuubi free, Naruto said. Yeah, I'm ready to set Kyuubi free, Naruto said, but before I start, I need you to do two things for us that are pretty much connected, he said, getting a small nod from the old man. First is we need you to have all male ANBU leave the room, and the other is we need a female ANBU to do some clothes shopping. When Hiruzen raised an eyebrow, causing Naruto to give a small sigh, let's just say in my head, Kyuubi is in the human form she wants, and she has clothes on. When she comes out, she can't take the clothes with her. Hiruzen gave an understanding nod at this. No matter what form the Kyuubi will be, if there are a bunch of males around when a naked little girl literally pops in, all hell will break loose, especially from the Ice Queens, who somehow tend to think all males are perverts, at least the adult ones. And you two trust me? Well, yeah, even though you're a dirty old man who probably taught the author of those books a few things, Naruto said, causing a sour look to appear on said man's face, Thundercloud included, while some snickers could be heard in the background, especially since he couldn't say out loud that Jiraiya is a natural-born pervert without consequences upon himself or his student upon his return. We know that there are lines that even you would never cross, so we trust you to do the right thing. While he is glad that his other student, Orochimaru, wasn't mentioned, especially since nobody knows what team he plays for when it comes to romance, at the same time, he can't help but feel disappointed about the darkness the village contains, like how the people that had high hopes for Orochimaru took their disappointment on Anko when his intentions were revealed just before he became Konoha's most dangerous missing nin. Okay, understood. Weasel, please go outside and tell the other NBU to not enter until I give the word no matter what, and also to keep everybody out, especially the civilian council. Also for both of you, this is strictly top secret until Naruto and Kyuubi see fit to reveal everything. A slight poof could be heard in the background, indicating that the order was being followed. Butterfly, since you're the only kunoichi in the room, please pick up enough clothes to help the Kyuubi have a decent start. And I'm not sure if it would make any kind of difference, but she is as thin as me, and reaches up to my eyes, Naruto said. When the last poof was heard before he can stop himself, so Naruto, why didn't you give Butterfly a better measurement? Hiruzen asked. Naruto gave him a confused look. What kind of measurements was I supposed to give her? He asked back. Before he can answer that, he remembered that while Naruto is smart for a 4-year-old, he is still too young to understand some things, or allowed to learn without consequence, especially when it comes to the human body, and since Kyuubi will be coming out the same age as him, the only main difference between the two biologically would be between their legs. Slap his hand met his face when Hiruzen realized two things, one by asking Naruto about Kyuubi's measurements before they start to change at puberty. He almost gave the blonde the talk earlier than he should, while two, both question and answer make him sound like the worst kind of enemy, a pedophile. Never mind, something you aren't ready for at the moment, he said, hoping both Naruto and Kyuubi would forget all about it when the time comes for nature to change a few things. While on the outside, Naruto was keeping a cool head, on the inside, Kyuubi was having trouble due to all of the laughing she was doing right now. What just about everyone in the village don't know is that Naruto knows way more than he should for his age, even a little bit about the difference between the bodies of boys and girls, and how they change at certain point in the future, thanks to him accidentally finding one of Kakashi's Ika books that fell out of his pouch and Naruto was the one to find it. While Kyuubi only gave him the basics, promising him that he wasn't ready to learn how to fully understand what else their private parts are used for other than peeing. When Kakashi returned to reclaim his book, he knew that the Ice Queens and anybody close to Naruto, especially the female portion, would make him cease to exist if they started to think that there is another Kakashi in the making, so in return for keeping what he read in the book a secret, Kakashi agreed to take care of Naruto's shopping since the civilian stores would rather shut down than treat Naruto like a child with too much on his shoulders. After recovering from her tension breaker thanks to her nerves, why didn't you at least hint it to him that you knew what he was talking about? Kyubi asked. You mean besides trying to see if I can get one of the most powerful people to sweat out of fear? Naruto asked, causing Kyubi to try and keep herself from laughing again, especially after remembering all the times Mito and Kushina would make people like Tobirama and Minato feel like a kid who got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. I wanted to help lighten the load that Gramps already has on his shoulders when it comes to me. You know what the haters in the village would do if they heard that I already knew something personal about girls. This was enough to get Kyubi to sober up, knowing exactly what they would do. They would demand his head even more because the demon is planning to mate, and they want to stop any spawns from being created. Deciding to go for a different subject, you know Naruto, for somebody to know so much at your age, it's really a sign of a young prodigy, Hiruzen said. Well, considering how my life started out and how I'm being treated by a bunch of idiots, what other choice do I have? Naruto asked. It was either get stronger, no matter what people try on me, or let win by becoming what they think of me. Hiruzen couldn't help but to feel both sad and disappointed. Sad because a child is forced to grow up faster to where childhood isn't much of an option, and disappointed because it was the very people that he is supposed to protect that are causing this. What makes it even worse is all the stories he hears about how other villages are treating their containers, and he couldn't help but feel sick at how they are treated over decisions that wasn't theirs to make to begin with. And if they do go berserk, it's the fault of the person defending themselves, not those who give them a reason to. I would like to apologize to you for not doing enough for you in the village, Naruto, he said. And you know the reason why I never revealed your heritage to the village was to keep your father's enemies from attacking us when we were at our weakest. Outside of the village I understand, but did he have any enemies in the village? Naruto asked, getting a questioning look from the old man. I mean, are there people in the village who can see who I remind them the most and go far enough to make sure Pops doesn't become a grandpop? Before they can continue, the butterfly NBU returned, with a few shopping bags. Where do you want these? Naruto pointed towards near the door that leads to the Hokage's personal room, which included a bath. When she placed the bags at the designated location, with a couple of bags still in her hands, I got your friend enough things to last her at least a couple of weeks. Thank you, Naruto said before pointed towards her hands. And you're not by any chance a recovering shopaholic? Nobody knew how, but the butterfly NBU was blushing like crazy, along with the mask, before making her exit via Shunshin. Anyway, do you have the stuff I need to make the seals? Naruto asked, just as Hiruzen handed him a small quill and bottle of ink. While watching the boy getting to work on drawing a seal onto the floor with perfect accuracy, Hiruzen couldn't help but feel more proud since the blonde picked up calligraphy just as quickly as his father did, amongst other things, making him a prodigy at a young age, with a touch of his mother's personality. Heaven forbid if Naruto were to inherit Kushina's habit of strike out the culprits period, screw the questions. From everything he has seen, Hiruzen could tell that Naruto is a prodigy in the making, just like father and Itachi Uchiha, somebody you would be proud of to share with the world. The only major thing keeping him from reaching his true full potential are the bigot villagers who can't seem to move on from their losses and making Naruto seem like the cause for it, with the civilian council making things worse because they get to make money off of the boy's misery and try to find if there are any loopholes in the law they can exploit, and keep the oppressors out of jail considering the boy is under their jurisdiction. The other thing that is starting to become a big deal is the Uchiha clan and the Hyugas from the main house. While the Uchihas have their own prodigy in Itachi, and Hayashi has been telling them about his nephew, Niji, who is about a year or two older than Naruto. With the Uchiha's proud history of being one of the founders of the village, with their all-powerful Sharingan eyes that can copy techniques and control their opponents through forms of hypnosis, along with Genjutsu, the idea of an useless Uzumaki orphan having the more powerful Rinnegan that made their eyes possible is just insulting because of powerful the boy could become if left alone long enough. The main branch of the Hyuga are probably just as bad, if not worse, than the Uchihos considering how most of them treat their families like servants and thinking that they are royalty while the rest of the village, including the Hokage, should be worshipping the very ground they walk on. Right now they are steaming because not only were the elders detained for being considered a threat to the village, all because they sent some branch members after a boy because he has the true ultimate dojutsu, but also said boy is being protected by the Hokage, their own clan head, Hayashi, and most of the ninja clans, minus the Uchiha. Plus, with a new set of elders that are willing to work with Hayashi's idea of reunification of the clan, which in their minds, is giving power to the help, and with the backing of Hiruzen, they can't make the side branch just disappear without raising any kind of suspicion, especially the ones registered as ninjas. When Naruto finished drawing a seal on the floor and around the seal on his navel, he noticed that Hiruzen was lost in his own thoughts. This was something one would think Hiruzen should have learned earlier not to do, especially when in the presence of a young child, even when the young prankster is in the room. While Naruto knew everybody's weakness through their habits, he also knew a little something about their fears, and for a dirty old man like Hiruzen, his greatest fear is when the strongest anti-pervert goes into pervert elimination mode. Look out, Gramps. Tsunade is about to turn you into wall paste, he yelled out. This had two effects from Hiruzen, one being that he screamed like a little girl, something that Naruto is never going to let him forget about, the other being a really foul smell filling the room. When he recovered, realizing he has been had, just before he can yell out at Naruto, he felt that his chair was a little saggy. After getting a good whiff, he realized why and vanished in a poof of smoke to get a clean pair of shorts. A few minutes later, he returned with a clean ass, but the red in his face pretty much said he was mad over how embarrassed he was that he was outsmarted by a boy who hasn't even started school yet. Naruto, why did you do that? Hiruzen said, trying hard not to blow his top. What? I was about to tell you that I was finished with the seals and you were stuck in your mind. You know how hard it is to get you out of it, Naruto answered, causing Hiruzen to just feeling embarrassed, with a hand behind his head. Because he knows what he said was true, what else was I supposed to do, start another bonfire with those books? Now Hiruzen went from red to white because the last time he did that, not only did some of the men wanted to kill the boy for such demonic acts, some of the young women became big supporters of his, considering how much most of the female population hate those god-awful books and protected him from the men. While sure, some of those girls are now nothing more than acquaintances to Naruto, yet now they do a little more to make sure the blonde never has a reason to be like the container in Suna. So Naruto, are you ready to begin? Hiruzen asked. The boy gave a small nod. Yeah, and I hope you have a few ANBU ready outside the building in case somebody wants to take another shot at me, Naruto said before doing about 50 seals, which led to his hands to start glowing. Okay, brace yourself. When Naruto placed one hand on his navel, and the other on the floor, both started to glow, before a bright light started to form into something solid on the floor. What was really getting Hiruzen's attention was what looked like chakra of multiple colors were being drawn from thin air, different colors, like as if the world is helping to give Kyuubi a second life. About half an hour later, when the light got brighter and started to go from a small lump to taking the shape of a small human, obviously a girl due to the long hair that developed a few minutes earlier. When the light finally died down into the girl, the movement coming from her upper body indicating that she was taking her first of fresh air for the first time in a very long time, since Mito Uzumaki became her container. When she stood straight up, her lids opened to reveal a pair of hazel eyes, with her fiery red hair reaching down to cover her butt, which was the only thing being covered because, like Naruto said, the only suit she was wearing at the moment is her birthday suit. After taking a look around at her new, now permanent surroundings, she found what, or rather whom, she was looking for. Breaking in her new legs, she tackled the blonde to the ground, yelling out thank you like a machine gun firing. While Naruto was a bit oblivious about Kyuubi being nude, he was still blushing due to instincts that only his body seems to know. Kyuubi, as much as I'm enjoying this, would you please put some clothes on? Remembering who else is in the room, and turning her head enough to see where he is, she realizes that with the position she was in, she was giving him a good view of her butt and a certain part of her anatomy. Even though he would never think of such vile things about children, it was still embarrassing as hell for her to be in such a position. So, after becoming redder than a tomato, jumped to her feet and ran towards the empty, grabbing the bags that the ANBU dropped off. While Naruto was slowly getting back up onto his feet, the smile on Hiruzen's face just grew a bit, because no matter how young the prodigies are, sometimes strength of heart can overpower anything. As much as he would want to put Naruto on the spot, some of his jokes would go over his head, and if he were to ask any of the Ice Queens, Sim or any of the clan wives, they would things to him that Kushina herself have promised to do to him whenever she had her girly moments, especially when it came to Minato. While he can't use anything that would be found in his students' books, he can still act like the grandfather figure that most people see him as, especially those who tend to fall under the villagers' prejudice which never seems to end, ever. So Naruto, how does it feel to be hugged by a girl? He asked, which caused the boy to become even redder. It felt nice, but I feel weird for some reason, Naruto said, giving him the typical response of any child. No matter how mature the child can be at a young age, when it comes to certain feelings, they can still be clueless on how to deal with them. Hiruzen gave a small chuckle at this, especially when it came to remembering all the times he had to keep his sons on the straight and narrow when it came to girls. Don't worry, my boy, those weird feelings will turn out to become something wonderful, he said, while picturing how Naruto would react if by some chance the council tries to force Naruto into the CRA after they decide that it would be better to preserve an ancient bloodline, while also hoping to use their own daughters to help obtain more control over a village that is supposed to be run by shinobi. Hope I don't end up like that old coot I met at the hot springs, Naruto said. Hiruzen couldn't help but chuckle at the memory of how Naruto first met Jiraiya, Toad Sage and self-proclaimed super pervert, and his godfather. While Naruto knew who his godparents are, and that they were supposed to take care of him if anything were to happen to keep his parents from raising him themselves, like death, and he said that they would have to earn his love and respect, as well as forgiveness for leaving him to the wolves just to pursue their own endeavors. What Naruto was referring to was when after he finished his training session with Itachi and Kakashi, when they decided to treat him to a day at the hot spring, while also threatening the person there what were to happen if she were to deny Naruto in any way. After getting settled in, they heard a slight giggling in a tree nearby, which after looking was Jiraiya doing his research. Due to Naruto's innate ability to pull a fast one, he found a small pebble and, thanks to his wind chakra, sent it flying into the man's butt, which in turn caused him to leap off of the branch he was on, and into the women's side of the hot springs. That was how Hiruzen and most of Konoha knew that he was back, when they hear the girly scream of pain that only occurs when the super pervert gets busted and has to pay a price. When he was thrown out after getting pounded, Jiraiya chewed out the boy for getting him caught, while dusting himself off, only for Naruto to add insult to injury, by using the women's maternal instinct on him by doing the hurt children bit, making it sound like he was being threatened by the oldest man in Springs, resulting in a hand to reach out, grab Jiraiya by hair, and yanked him back into the other side of the fence. Going for another round of femme fatale, this time making the first one seem like nothing more than a playground brawl. After recovering and meeting the old man, Jiraiya was finally able to realize that he has been played twice by the son of the two that he loved as children, even though they had the same habit of busting his chops about his favorite pastime. Learning about Naruto's life from after Minato's death to when he gained the original Rinnegan, he realized that dropping off gifts and hoping he would get the money he sent him to live off of wasn't enough, especially since too many people thought they had the right to get revenge on a boy whose only real crime was being born when life was being lost, and forced to carry a burden that the rest of the village would be too much of a coward to accept. Right now, Jiraiya is on the lookout for Tsunade, and her protege, Shizen, back to Konoha, along with the promise of calling in a debt she owes Hiruzen for letting her wander in her own misery for so long. Don't worry, Naruto, as long as you give people the respect they deserve, especially girls, then in the long run, they will be more than glad to return the favor. Hiruzen said, although he was pretty sure that if Kushina was still alive, then she would make extremely, and lethally, sure that her boys would never become the next Jiraiya. Kakashi, he would have been pounded into the ground if he was crazy enough to read said man's books in front of her. This was when Kyubi came back, wearing a simple white sundress with blue sandals on her feet. With a good look, some people could say she could pass for a girly version of Kushina, considering how much of a tomboy she described herself as when she told stories of her life in Yuzushio. When he watched Naruto looking at her with some kind of interest, especially since he probably has no idea what, he couldn't help but think back when Minato and Kushina, which was like this, but a big age gap between the two. Wow, Kyubi, you look really pretty, Naruto said. Kyubi's face became hidden under the hair, to help hide the blush that was starting to appear on her face. Thank you, Naruto, she said. Hiruzen couldn't help but feel like a small case of déjà vu hitting him, the difference being that Minato had trouble shutting up to the point where Kushina's fist shut him up before his foot could. Getting back to business, so when is Naruto supposed to absorb your old chakra? He asked the pair. Kyubi went into a thinking position before saying right about now. And just before they knew it, bright yellow chakra flew out of Naruto, hitting the roof, becoming bright enough to make the Hokage Tower look like a lighthouse. This got a good portion of the village's attention, especially those believing that the demon is showing his true colors to the Hokage, while their counselors decided to call a quick meeting in order to prepare for the boy's permanent removal. The scream of pain was a bit unbearable considering the changes Naruto's body is going through, while Kyubi and Hiruzen had their eyes covered due to the light. Even though the light was bright, they can still make out an outline of the boy that was changing to show not only his body growing, but also some things growing out of it. After a while, when things calmed down, the two blinked their eyes a couple of times, before doing a double take on what they're seeing now. Before them stood a slightly taller Naruto, with a pair of fox ears on his head, sticking out of his now red-streaked blonde hair, along with his Rinna Sharingan eyes gaining 2 tomos each, adding to the 2 he gained along the way, totaling to 5 each. While in awe, both couldn't help but feel that something is missing. When they were about to ask him about it, they noticed that he looked like he was about to pass out from pain. While the third was a bit clueless, Kyubi knew exactly what that pain was, even though she no longer carries that particular part. Looking down to confirm it, she could see bulges in both pant legs. His tails are caught in his pants, she explained, getting the man's attention. While not knowing the feeling of such pain, Hiruzen couldn't help but flinch. Getting up from his chair, and walking up to his surrogate grandson, "Let's get you some relief from the pain," he said, before leading the boy towards the other room. A loud yow was heard. When they stepped out, Naruto now has 9 tails sticking out behind him. This was when Kyuubi went girly and tackled him into the ground once again, while getting a feel of the new Naruto, especially the fluffy tail. Hiruzen chuckled because he can picture that being Kushina, before she threatened retribution towards anybody who would say a word of this outside the office. Deciding to get back to business, he gave a small cough, causing Kyuubi to jump back onto her feet, blushing for her moment of weakness. So Naruto, how do you feel? Hiruzen asked, with some concern, while also trying to figure what needs to be worked out with Naruto's physical instructors. A little weird, but the good kind, Naruto answered, although I'm still trying to get used to having tails and ears that move. Now all we need to do is place a genjutsu on you in order to hide your true appearance, Hiruzen said. Nah, I'll stay the way I am, Naruto said, considering how badly they flipped when they saw my eyes, and there are still ninja not loyal to you completely, they would dispel it just to help get some mobs started. This caused Hiruzen to frown, because the ninjas that came from civilian families, especially the ones with connections to the council. Besides, can you picture the look on everyone's face when we tell them that they created a demon? Everybody laughed at this. While it was wishful thinking, they knew that the villagers would try to deny it, and the civilian council would try to make it where the laws apply only to humans, without thinking about the double-edged sword. Anyway, we need to give you a new name, Naruto said, turning to Kyuubi, calling you Kyuubi out there. I don't know what they would do to you. Hiruzen did, and even with the new name, they would be better off not knowing what some of the villagers would do to her for just being with Naruto, which is why he would place a kill-on-sight order to his ANBU on anybody who dares to cross that line, even if it is a council member or somebody of high status. I agree, a new name would help complete the new life you want to live. Kyuubi nodded in understanding. That would be fine with me, but the only names I know are of my siblings, she said. While Hiruzen nodded at this, Naruto was already thinking of a name. Hey, how about Misaki Aiko? He suggested. Knowing the meaning, which is beautiful bloom, little loved one, Kyuubi, now Misaki Aiko nodded her head, blushing a bit. I like it, she said. As do I, Hiruzen said. I'll make sure to get all the necessary paperwork done and past my secretary so that way the wrong people won't know the truth. Then he looked towards the new fox boy, and Naruto. I'll have Kakashi do the necessary shopping considering that all of your current clothes will no longer fit you. Thanks, Gramps, Naruto said, opening the door. Before he could set foot out the door, the ground shook, and everybody's eyes went wide just as something tackled Naruto. While Hiruzen nodded at this, Naruto was already thinking of a name. Hey, how about Misaki Aiko? He suggested. Knowing the meaning, which is beautiful bloom, little loved one, Kyuubi, now Misaki Aiko nodded her head, blushing a bit. I like it, she said. As do I, Hiruzen said. I'll make sure to get all the necessary paperwork done and past my secretary so that way the wrong people won't know the truth. Then he looked towards the new fox boy, and Naruto. I'll have Kakashi do the necessary shopping considering that all of your current clothes will no longer fit you. Thanks, Gramps, Naruto said, opening the door. Before he could set foot out the door, the ground shook, and everybody's eyes went wide just as something tackled Naruto to the ground. When the dust settled, Hiruzen's eyes went wide, while Misaki felt a bit jealous, because under a pile of girls of different ages was Naruto, with his ears and tails getting all of the attention. Judging by the looks of things, including Misaki, there is an even dozen of girls in the room. The one mentioned looked like she wanted to defend the boy, although not entirely sure, considering that her feelings are still those of a 4-year-old, considering that her hand was twitching. Getting a good look at who is petting Naruto, he could see 5 girls around Naruto's age, give or take a few months, a pink-haired and blonde, who were rubbing an ear and his cheek, each with their own, being near the whiskers that become more defined through the transformation, while using a hand to scratch said ears, while the other 3, one a brunette and the other 2 with black hair. Next there were 4 grown women, which he can assume are their mothers, a blonde, a brunette, an older brunette, and a dark-haired woman. The other 2 are his own ANBU, one with the butterfly mask that did Misaki's shopping, and the other had a cat mask on it. When the blonde by Naruto's ear yelled out, "Hey you! Don't you want to join in?" Hiruzen couldn't help but chuckle when Misaki charged in and started to rub Naruto's whiskers, along with the rest of his face, which was the only thing left not being petted. Right now, if Naruto's features can be passed down with the Rinne Sharingan, then that would be 2 bloodlines, along with the abilities that the Uzumaki clan are known for. Then he would be forced into the CRA by the civilian councils, and he, along with the rest, would have to oblige to it, especially since it would be for the good of the village. God, there are times he hated that line with a vengeance, especially when it involves human lives, even more so when he has to make the choices that nobody wants, including Danzo, after almost getting too close to crossing that one point after using that line one too many times. Yet the one thing that can be negotiated, whether the civilians like it or not, especially since it would be a ninja clan that is going to be rebuilt, was the minimal number of girls for Naruto to marry, and what age he needs to be in order to impregnate a girl, because there will be no way in hell that he, the elders, and the clan heads, would ever force Naruto to start too early to where he hasn't started puberty. Or just starting it. One good thing that might be going for Naruto is that he already has a head start on it to where whatever number the council decides, he already has 6 girls that would destroy any plans of theirs to try and get one of their daughters to be a part of it. And considering the fact that he can recognize the mothers, then he knows that Naruto wouldn't have to worry about gold diggers and status climbers, especially considering how close they are to Kushina. When his perverted side tried to kick in by saying, "Lucky little bastard," and picturing what Naruto and the young girls would look in the future, fully grown, and reenacting a scene, he shook his head to get those thoughts out before they get him killed, because while the only thing Naruto can do is prank him to the point of utter humiliation, thanks to his inherited hatred towards perverts he got from both parents. Being in the presence of mothers, and 2 ANBU, one being part of the infamous Ice Queens, they would downright pound the living daylights out of him, with a vengeance, because there are young children around. After seeing Naruto's face about to explode from embarrassment, and for some really strange reason, the mothers are already planning the wedding, or rather declaring whose would be better, and whose grandchildren will be better, causing a sweat drop to appear on the old man, along with the male ANBU. Hiruzen decided to stop now before they reached their great-grandkids, so with a light cough, which was enough to get everybody's attention. Giving them a slight chuckle, "Ladies, as much as I enjoy your enthusiasm for the future, but I need to remind you that young Naruto Uzumaki is still 4 years old, and still has a lot of growing up to do before he can even reach that stage," he said, causing the mothers to blush in embarrassment. "And while I'm at it, can you please let go of Naruto? He can use a break from all of the love right now." Seeing how Naruto was red, from the tip of his ears to the tip of all 9 of his tails, and the fact that he looked like he was about to faint, with a slight "ah," they all let go and returned to their feet, with a little help getting back onto his feet by the 2 ANBU, with the young girls standing on both sides of Naruto, forming part of a circle, while the mothers forming the other part. When the name registered to the mothers' minds, "Wait, Naruto Uzumaki, you mean?" as in one of the blondes started to ask, only to be stopped by the only male blonde in the room, well, somewhat blonde. "Excuse me, miss, but maybe we should do this when there aren't the risk of unnecessary ears in the room," Naruto said, because you never know who is listening in, and also, never know which side that person is working for. Hiruzen gave an understanding nod at this, because after thinking over what Naruto was trying to tell him about Minato having enemies inside and outside the village, he realized that all he was doing was delaying the inevitable by keeping the boy's lineage a secret, especially if any of the people in the village still hold a grudge against the man for trying to make sure that power within the village has some balance, while also not being afraid to bring down those who thought that they were above both the law and the Kage. "Very well, Cat, Butterfly, return to your posts," he ordered, getting another off from them, and he was pretty sure they were pouting under the mask, being more ladylike than the rank they are given, but they complied since they are on the clock. When they reached the door, "Oh, and Cat, make sure to tell your friends to start expecting sisters in the future." He could tell that Yugao was smiling at that thought after figuring out what he was talking about. When the doors closed, Hiruzen applied the Kage seals, which doubles as both security and privacy seals, which he didn't apply the first time because he wasn't sure if it would have been strong enough for both Kyuubi's rebirth as Misaki and Naruto becoming a Hanyu. Now that we are safe to discuss private matters, how about we start off with introductions before we talk? After nodding, and knowing that right now, just about everything has something to do with him, "Well, I'll go first," Naruto said, while scratching the back of his head, while everyone female was fighting the urge to go all girly on him again. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, but in the future, Namikaze." This caught the mothers by surprise, while their daughters didn't seem to recognize the name, mainly because they are at the age of not really knowing, or caring much, about the history of Konoha, just the fairy tales that their parents read them in order to have a good night's sleep. Misaki stepped up. "Hi, I'm Misaki Aiko, and I just arrived here," she said, although, except for Naruto and Hiruzen, nobody knows how literally she meant that. The mothers decided to introduce for both themselves and their daughters since said girls were looking a bit shy, judging by the slight blush on their cheeks, along with the huge smiles, and the fact that the first thing they seemed to be focused on Naruto's tail, probably wondering what it would be like to be wrapped by one of them, although they aren't any better. One of the blondes stepped up, this one having just a simple hairstyle. "Hello Naruto, my name is Mabuki Haruno, and the pink-haired girl is my daughter Sakura." Sakura gave a small wave, while her face was starting to match her hair more, while Mabuki tried hard not to do anything crazy yet since she wants to give her friend's son some closure, especially from what he had to start off with in life. The brunette walked up next, looking a little shy, and after noticing that her eyes were pure white, no pupils whatsoever, meaning that she is a Hyuga, and getting a good look at 2 of the girls on both sides of him, that have the same eyes, and one of them having a matching hair color, and he couldn't help but flinch a bit since his previous encounter with Hyuga were far from pleasant. Even though the ones attacking him were branch members who apologized for attacking him, especially since his eyes posed a threat to the order of things in the village. Seeing the flinch, she knew that Hayashi would have to also apologize personally to the boy for what went on behind his back. Giving him a slight bow, "Hello Naruto, I am Asami, translation, Morning Beauty, name courtesy of Creed Razor Reaper. Thanks man, Hyuga, and the two girls on your sides are my twin daughters, Hinata and Hanabi," pointing to each girl when saying their names so that he would know which is which, causing Hinata to touch her fingers, and Hanabi was getting ready to live up to her name judging by size of her smile, and the waves she gave, both blushing a bit more, and also, she continued, although her eyes started to water up. "I would like to apologize on behalf of my husband, Hayashi, who is the clan head, and the Hyuga clan for what our elders tried to do behind his back, by trying to kill you for something just because of their own fears." This was when the black-haired woman stepped forward, after seeing her friend try to make amends for her clan's stupidity, and after seeing Naruto give her a flinch as well from remembering his experience with her clan trying to kill him as well. She felt just as bad because it was her best friend's son that was on so many people's assassination list, and her own husband pretty much encouraged the attacks. Along with getting their youngest son ready to take the blonde out, trying to force him to become another prodigy like her oldest. "I would also like to apologize as well, Naruto, for what my clan has tried to do because of their wounded pride over who has the better eyes." After seeing Naruto calming down, and looking like he has his mother's sense of who is lying or not, "My name is Mikoto Uchiha, and the girl on the end is my daughter, Dawn." Said girl, who was pretty much the mini version of her mother, just gave a small nod, while trying to hide her blush, and unlike most of our clan, myself, along with Dawn, and my eldest son, Itachi, don't believe in the fact that our eyes are what makes up great. Taking a look at the two women, who he can tell are strong, but are right now, looking a bit fragile, because of actions of those with too much power, Naruto knew what needs to be said. "You're forgiven," he said, and watching as their heads shot up, with the spark of hope shining in their eyes, "I know not to blame everybody for something that a bunch of bullies have done. I don't want to be like those people who keep blaming me for everything that goes wrong." The final woman, the brunette with her hair in a bun, and sporting a regal look, walked up and gave a respectful bow. "Hello Naruto, my name is Ju Yamanaka, and the blonde by Sakura is my daughter, Ino." Said blonde had a big, face-splitting grin on her face, when she gave a finger wave. "After seeing that the intros are done, nice to meet everybody, and I get the feeling you four knew my parents in more ways than one," Naruto said. "Oh yes," Asami answered, "except for Fugaku, we, along Tsum and the rest of the clan heads, along with their wives, were really close to your parents. And we'll be more than glad to tell you stories about them in the future," Mikoto said, betting an appreciative nod from the fox boy, including a few things that she would probably want to keep secret from you. In the afterlife, a certain redhead felt the urge to start smashing some skulls of people who know her too well. With everything out of the way, everyone was sitting down, Naruto and the girls on one couch, the mothers on the spare, while Hiruzen stayed in his regular seat, although the adults were smiling a bit at a blushing Naruto. The main reason being that the girls all wanted to sit by Naruto, so they came to a silent arrangement, or rather found an empty spot, and somehow, they all worked. Misaki and Dawn are both sitting on his lap, his arms being held by the Hyuga twins, and his legs, well, the parts closest to the floor, hugged by Sakura and Ino. And for an added bonus for them, each girl had a tail or two wrapped around them, making them feel safe and warm. This got the adults smiling and picturing what the future holds for them, although Hiruzen's was different from the mother's. While he is glad that the boy is having a head start at finding love, although somebody would have to explain it to him when he is getting closer to puberty, he can't help but picture how Minato and Kushina would react to this, especially since Kushina has a tendency to go overboard when excited. With the mothers, they couldn't help but feel pleased at how close their daughters have already become to their friend's son, although they also couldn't help but feel a lot of heartbreak while becoming in the future. Plus, they felt a bit envious with the girls for finding their future Teddy Fox so early. Deciding to get on with those, "Well Naruto, now that everybody is comfortable," he said, causing the kids to blush and the mothers to giggle, "go ahead and tell them everything, and I'll gladly fill in the gaps." Naruto gave a small nod, and decided to tell them something that would double also as a bit of test on the people to see if they will follow their hearts, or the crowd. Releasing a small sigh, he decided to start off with what happened about a month ago. "Okay, you all know about me gaining a dojutsu, right?" Naruto asked, getting a nod from everybody, while he started to explain, only to be interrupted by his fellow blonde. "Wait, Naruto, you're the one who has the eyes that is supposed to be better than the Sharingan?" Ino asked, looking excited. After giving her a nod, "Can you show it to us?" she asked, giving him the puppy dog eyes. "Yeah, can you?" Hanabi asked, double-teaming him with the same eyes. When the other four pretty much surrounded him with those eyes, he didn't stand a chance, which in turn gave him his first lesson about girls. They know how to fight dirty when they need to. So he gave another sigh, before looking back up and activating the Rinna Sharingan, which, by what looked like a ripple effect, his eyes went from a blue slit to purple with rings and tomes on it. Hiruzen couldn't help but chuckle at the boy's predicament, at how it didn't take long for him to give in to a simple request, although since Naruto was pretty much outnumbered, he had as much of a chance resisting that as much as Kakashi avoiding a half-off sale of Ika books. Looking at the mothers, while they are in awe like their daughters when it came to his eyes, he could also see that they had a small smile that says that they hope for the best, while at the same time, bracing for broken hearts. After Naruto tells his story, Hiruzen is going to give them some news that will be happening in the near future, which might make quite a few people happy. Deciding to get on with the story, Naruto turned off his eyes, to the disappointment of the girls. Anyway, I got these on my birthday, when some idiot tried to blow me and my bodyguard up, he said, continuing the story, causing the mothers to scowl at this, and the girls to gasp, and the reason why they did that is because 4 years ago, sometime after I was born, somebody came by and ripped the kyuubi from my mother's belly and not much was left out on what happened during the first 4 years. Well, his only 4 years at the moment, in his life, with Hiruzen providing backup, from Madara Uchiha, or somebody doing a pretty good impression of him, being the real reason why Naruto had a bad start in life, to who Misaki truly is. And now, I'm pretty much now part demon fox, while Misaki is getting a chance to live a life. When the focus turned to her, Misaki had her head down, her voice dripping with guilt. Do you hate me now since I was the reason why so many lives were destroyed or damaged because of my actions? She asked, waiting for somebody to attack her. Instead, she was surprised to feel not just Naruto's arms hugging her, but also the other girls. It's not your fault, Misaki. Somebody made you do all those things, Naruto said, while letting her use his shoulder to cry on, like how Hiruzen, or the ramen chefs, would do whenever he needed to let his emotions out. Hinata spoke up next. Yes, Misaki, we won't blame you for something you never wanted to do. And don't think we will think anything bad about you, ever, Sakura said. This finally broke the dam, because Misaki started to bawl out from all the love she was receiving, which caused a ripple effect since Naruto and the other 5 started to tear up. Outside the group, the mothers were smiling themselves, as well as tearing up, because their daughters are showing what they themselves would have done, along with making them realize even more that the 9-tailed demons are also creatures of feeling as well. Even Hiruzen was feeling proud that both Naruto and Misaki are having a fresh start in life, while also feeling a slight pain in his heart, because what Misaki went through, he has seen in the eyes of several of his ninja that were pretty much forced to do such vile deeds themselves, especially if they were orders given by himself, and felt such guilt for taking so many lives. Especially from the innocent who weren't given a chance to enjoy the rest of their lives. While the kids are busy supporting the one that needs it, Hiruzen decided to have a chat with the mothers, to let them know what the future will be holding for the youngsters, so that they would have something to discuss at home with their husbands, when 3 of them will be hearing the same thing real soon. Well, looks like a bright future for the young ones are started to ignite with a single spark, he said, getting a slight nod from the mothers, while one of them gave out a small indeed as a response, especially when what took a couple of minutes, the young UNS separated and started to talk, and I have something that might make everyone in the room happy. Naruto interrupted him after something clicked him. Hey Gramps, what did you mean when you told Kat to tell her friends to expect sisters in the future? He asked, giving him a curious look that includes tilting his head, only to get tackled by the girls surrounding him, yelling out cute due to how his fox looks tend to add to his cuteness for the girls. Hiruzen was laughing up a storm at the boy's predicament, especially when there are 4 grown women who look like they want to jump in at any second. Well, looks like the future of Naruto's clan is going to be in good hands, he said, deciding to drop the bombshell, especially since Naruto is being smothered by his future wives. This got the mother's attention. While Mabuki looked at the guy for even suggesting polygamy, or her daughter being close to be considered a concubine, while the other 3, being clan wives, had a good idea what the Hokage was pointing out, the Clan Restoration Act? Ju asked, understanding what Naruto knew bloodline would lead to. When Hiruzen gave a small nod, and you're planning Naruto's future for his clan already? Asami asked, isn't he a little too young to be planning a marriage? Hiruzen's smile dropped after the first question, and gave a small sigh. I was going to wait until Naruto was old enough to know about the birds and the bees before offering it to him as a choice, especially if he still met the girls, considering how he would never want to break someone's heart, then he probably would have, along with asking your daughter's opinions. He said, but after what just happened, the civilian council would find some law that would make it happen right away, especially after I stop them from trying to kill him, especially if they try too hard to make sure that they get some kind of control over what was left to Naruto by his parents by using their own daughters. This was when Mikoto put it all together, and with our daughters, then not only can you negotiate a reasonable number, But also, Naruto should be safe from the rest of the village from trying to force him into marrying their daughters. She said, and if some of those girls are also from major clans, then he has political backing, especially if the clans are also close allies. Exactly, Hiruzen said, and if we can make sure the age to produce heirs when Naruto and some of the girls are at least at the age of consent, even when they are ninja, then we'll be giving them a chance to grow both as children, friends, and by the time they graduate the academy, something a bit more. This was when everybody's focus returned to the children, and they all can't help but laugh, because Naruto was trying to recover his breath, considering how blue his face is, with the girls apologizing for hugging him too hard. At least I know the boy would be in good hands, even if I don't live long enough for him to show me my first great-grandchild. After giving Naruto and the girls a brief, an age-friendly version of what is about to come, they all nodded in agreement that they would give things a try, especially since the girls were blushing at the thought of marriage, which caused some smirks to appear on their mothers' faces, meaning that there will be some long-term teasing for a good long time. This was when a knock at the door got their attention. Removing the seal, enter. Hiruzen replied to the person on the other side, having a good idea what the reason is for being disturbed. The door opened to reveal Weasel, aka Itachi Uchiha, Lord Hokage. An emergency council meeting has been formed and you, as well as young Mr. Uzumaki's, presence has been demanded, he said. And why didn't my secretary inform me? Hiruzen asked, while having a pretty good idea who called the meeting. Oh, she was getting too full of herself, so we thought that a trip to Ibiki would make her lose a few pounds from her head. Itachi answered, keeping a perfectly straight face, although those that knew him knew that he was more than glad to send her towards said man. Hiruzen gave a small sigh, knowing that he would need to start looking for another eligible secretary, one that wasn't suggested by the civilian council, since he was sure she was one to give them information that their eyes aren't allowed to see. Very well, me and Naruto will be on our way. You and Kat will be escorting Miss Aiko to Naruto's apartment, and guard her, while we fact the council, he said, as everybody got onto their feet, and go their separate ways. When they all started to walk towards the door, don't forget the rest of your stuff, Misaki, Naruto said, making sure that his friend didn't forget the stuff that would help start her out on things in life. Oh yeah, thanks Naruto, Misaki said before giving him a quick kiss on the cheek. Before heading towards the room she left them, causing the other 5 girls to glare at her, not knowing that they are feeling jealousy for the first time. When she came back, Naruto turned towards the mother. Hey, if it's not too much trouble, but would any of you be kind enough to take Misaki shopping for more stuff? Naruto asked, looking towards the ground while his ears went flat. I'd go with her, but... Getting a hand on his head, he looked up to see Mikoto, along with the rest of the mothers, giving him an understanding smile. We would love to help your friend, she said, getting nods of agreement from the other mothers. When he started to smile, his ears went up, along with his tail starting to give a small wag. He was in danger of being smothered by 4 grown women again, along with Hiruzen in danger of perverted thoughts, since they would pick him up and hug them against their chests. In fact, we would be more than willing to take you out shopping as well, Naruto. Get you everything from clothes to the stuff you'll need in your apartment. Are you sure? Naruto asked, feeling concerned about the people he just met. I don't want you to. He was stopped by Asami, everyone glad that the boy was still selfless despite the selfish nature of most of the village. No, Naruto, we want to, and it's the least we can do for our friend's son, she said, and you don't have to worry, we know a few stores that would be glad to serve you, especially since some of them are run by people who opened them after the attack. Mabuki continued from there, and since you have already got a bit of a head start with your ninja training, we know the perfect store that would be more than glad to help you get what you need to get better, she said with a smile. The owner is a good friend of ours, along with a good portion of the ninjas, especially your parents, so he should be more than glad to help you with all your needs. Naruto gave them a thank you, while Hiruzen noticed the look on the women's faces, and while he too would recommend the ninja shop they are talking about to Naruto, he also had a sneaky suspicion that these ladies are probably planning to play matchmaker with said friend's daughter, who, like him, is nuts about weapons, and a bit of a tomboy. Over at said weapons shop, a 5-year-old girl was watching her father making kunai when she had a weird feeling hit her in the heart. After looking around, she shrugged her shoulders and went back to watching her father at work. Back with the main group, Hiruzen and Naruto separated from the rest of the group, with Raven and Butterfly being the lookout for the girls, especially Misaki, when she is dropped off at Naruto's place. Last thing anybody wants are the villagers doing something really unforgivable. Even though he is still getting used to his body changing so much, with his tails just seem to be floating with the breeze as he walks, he was already thinking the possibilities of how they can be of use, whether fighting, or pranking, or shopping, or cuddling with the girls. Where did that come from, he thought, while a blush appeared on his face. Seeing the blush, Hiruzen, along with the NBU, couldn't help but smile, Because it was apparent that Naruto's heart became linked to girls his age, yet it's going to be a long time before he understands what his heart is telling him, especially if they keep a certain perverted Sannin from corrupting the boy in the ways of the human flesh. Hiruzen was tempted to tease the boy, yet at the same time, he knew when to keep his trap shut, since the boy would probably counter what he would have said with using his future nuptials as a way to bruise his perverted ego. When they reached the doors that led into the dreadful council chamber, made so because there are a bunch of civilians who try too hard to stick their noses into things that they shouldn't be, especially if it involves things that they have no clue on, like shinobi matter. And judging by the screaming, said group was going full charge with their vendetta. Giving off a small sigh, all four in the group, Hiruzen turned to face Naruto. "Are you ready to face the music?" he asked. Naruto just shook his head. "Not really, but it's not like I have many choices in my life," Naruto said. This caused the other three to feel sorry for the blonde since he was hardly given any choices involving his life. Looking up at them, "Anyway, do you have any sound seals for the civilian council? My head is starting to hurt just from being out here." Hiruzen had a depressed look on his face. "No, unfortunately, I do not, and it's still being researched to see how to apply it without violating somebody's rights," he said, and looking at the boy, or rather his new ears, he understood why he would ask, since the boy's body change would include stronger senses. "But I will make sure that the whole meeting is bearable enough for you." Both gave each other a small nod, before walking into the lion's den. Inside of the chambers, while the civilians are spouting out nonsense about the demon showing its true colors and needs to be put down before it finishes the first attack, or to the rest of the room, stop it so they don't end up paying for their own stupidity, the rest were ignoring them. Except for Fugaku, the clan heads, along with the three elders, were just playing a little card game, to pass the time, since they learned a long time ago that the best way to beat the council was to either catch them completely off guard, or just let them wear themselves out, while also keeping an eye out for any orders that would violate the laws of the village. Mainly, use their ninja training to help deal with politics. When the doors opened, there were two different responses when people got a look at the new Naruto. On one side, the one with the liberals, looked like they were getting ready to have a heart attack, even though they don't seem to have hearts. On the other side, there are some that looked shocked, there are some that were curious, two were neutral, and the last two, the only ninjas/ex-ninjas in the room, were about to have a girly moment. Things were neutral until Naruto learned an important lesson that he will remember for the rest of his life. Slam. Yow. To make sure all tails are closer to his body whenever anything closes. "Open the door! Open the door!" he yelled out, in rapid fire, until Hiruzen ran back and did as ordered and closed them as he watched as Naruto was holding the tails that were caught. "Are you feeling alright, Naruto?" Hiruzen asked, feeling a bit responsible for making sure his grandson didn't get hurt, even if it was accidental, and also, not his fault. "Yeah, I'm fine, Gramps, just feeling really sore," Naruto answered, while in the background, the elders and clan heads were rolling their eyes from their designated spots, because the civilian were throwing insults towards the boys. When the Hokage walked towards his chair, with an evil look on his face that spelled trouble for those who are seriously pressing his patience. When he got to his spot, Naruto, who, even though his ears and tails are twitching slightly, he looked towards the civilian council and used a line known to be used by one shinobi. "Did any of you say something?" Now all hell really broke loose, with the civilian council losing their minds because, in their heads, the boy had the gall to treat them like they are lower than him, while a good portion of the rest of the room broke out laughing, or giving a slight chuckle, with the exception of Danzo and Hayashi, who even though tend to keep a tough exterior, but were laughing on the inside, while also respecting the boy's courage at facing such worthless opponents. Chibi, since nobody ever seems to know what he, and the rest of the Aburame clan, are thinking, or if they are capable of expressing emotions, and Fugaku, mainly because he believes himself to be above everybody else, and don't like it when anybody has the nerve to say otherwise. Deciding to get down to business, Hiruzen released a strong wave of killer intent as his gavel, to tell everybody to settle down and shut up. Seeing that everything is in order, alright, now that everybody is here, what is the meaning behind calling this meeting? Hiruzen asked, although he already got a good idea on what it is going to be about. "Lord Hokage, we have warned you about how letting the demon live could prove fatal to us all, so we demand he be removed from the village, either by death or banishment," one civilian yelled out. Hiruzen pinched his nose, already feeling the headache, while the rest of the ninjas/former ninjas looked at the other side, finding it amazing how they keep accusing Naruto of things when they don't seem to provide one bit of proof, which in this case, since the third walked in without a mark on his body, then, what makes you think I have been attacked by Naruto? Hiruzen asked, and what proof do you have of Naruto's so-called attack on me? Because of the fact that there was a bright yellow chakra that came from your office. Another yelled out, and since some of us seen that demon enter your office, obviously he decided to show his true colors. Next thing anybody knew, said council member lost their job when an ANBU took that person to Ibiki. This was when Danzo stepped in. And how do you know that young Naruto has actually attacked the Hokage? He asked, especially since said person walked in without a single sign of being attacked. After getting a good hard look at Hiruzen, they realized that while he doesn't look hurt, he would be more than glad to put the rest of the civilian council into a whole world of hurt for trying to use him as an excuse to take out Naruto. So if the Debrat didn't attack or Lord Hokage, then how do you explain that? A councilwoman asked, pointing towards Naruto, who didn't look fazed by all of this, especially with all of the finger pointing that he is going through. Oh that is a new bloodline that is just making itself known. Hiruzen answered for Naruto, keeping it in a half-truth. That attack on Naruto's birthday seemed to have damaged the seal to where if I hadn't to fix the seal to keep the Kyuubi from breaking out, and Naruto from absorbing too fast. And knowing what was about to be said, and no, if I didn't stop it, the fox would be back, one way or the other. While the civilians were white as a ghost at hearing that, everybody else knew that their Hokage wasn't telling them everything, yet if it involves Naruto, they can understand why, since a good portion of the village is full of self-righteous bastards using other people's death as an excuse to do the inexcusable. They are willing to wait until the civilian council, and Fugaku, leaves after the meeting is over before asking questions. The ones who have a pretty good idea what is being hidden are Shikaku, Hayashi, Shibi, and Fugaku, along with Danzo, Hamura and Kohara having a good idea what laws that Hiruzen is trying to keep from getting abused, especially a certain law that was written, but never used because at the time, all clans were just barely getting off the ground themselves. To put it simply, while some villages have practiced it once or twice, although some were more forced, in Konoha, Naruto would be the first, even though his clan had their own home outside the village. Knowing that the gears are turning, and what they are planning, yet like some things, when it comes to politics, it's usually first come, first serve, and since Naruto is the holder of two bloodlines, along with being the true heir, and last member of the Uzumaki clan, I hereby place him under the Clan Restoration Act. He said, getting everybody's attention, with a minimum of 3 girls to join his family, which he well allowed to choose by his 16th birthday, and by his 18th, 1 or 2 of them should be carrying a child. Now this got a whole bunch of different reactions from the rooms, with some of the civilians trying to either deny the boy before he makes spawns, some because they don't want Naruto to gain access to the Uzumaki funds that they themselves have been denied to, change the Chiari to a ridiculously younger age, or number, or even have it where they choose the future wives, mainly their own daughters, and rest of the council, well. Some were shocked that Hiruzen would even suggest that, especially to a young child, yet they kept quiet, although Fugaku was thinking of ways to stop the young demon from becoming stronger than the Uchiha clan. Deciding that he has had enough, silence. Hiruzen yelled out, making the room, getting things back on track. I have looked up the laws, and I also know that since the Uzumaki were, or rather, soon to be are, a ninja clan, then you don't really have too much of a say in the matter. He said with small smiles, and before any of you so much as think of trying to have your daughters and granddaughters on Naruto just so you can gain access to what's rightfully his, remember, he is still a child, so if you so much as try to rush things, I will sick the Ice Queens on you. This caused a lot of people to shiver, because there are only 2 things that with a small group to attack. 1, is when any kind of pervert that can't take the hint, 2 if you mess with their little brother. Deciding that he had enough of this farce meeting, okay, now I call this meeting to an end, and I don't feel like listening to any more backtalk, so leave now, or I won't be the only one throwing you out. Hiruzen said, giving them a look that reminds them that the title God of Shinobi isn't just for show. The room was cleared of civilians, with Fugaku not too far behind, some of them giving Naruto a slight glare, which was ignored before they left. When it became just Naruto, and the high-ranking officials that still know the difference between politics and actually doing what they're supposed to do. When the door closed, Hiruzen gave his next order, all A and BU in the room, leave, and be on the lookout for any eavesdroppers, especially if they are council members or Uchiha. A few poofs were heard. Root, you as well, make sure this conversation stays private. Danzo yelled out, which was followed by another set of poofs. Originally, Roots was meant to be beyond Black Ops, doing things that even A and BU would be restricted to do, especially if it involves doing things without getting fingers pointed at the village, which was heading towards getting disbanded by Hiruzen because what they do tends to question how far one would go for one's village. After a talk between the 2 friends, it was agreed upon that Root would be a subdivision of A and BU, with Danzo in charge, while still reporting straight to Hiruzen, and a major makeover of the group by making sure that, while still soldiers of Konoha, they still have their humanity through emotions, and there would be no more recruiting of any kids who haven't even started the academy yet, while clan heirs are especially off limits. Like everything else, it was a bumpy start, but Danzo did see better results when his troops are fighting from the heart, and he was able to see things from his friend's point of view on how life should be treated with love, not peace. Now, he was able to enjoy the joys of family with his wife, children, and grandchildren. After everybody grouped up around Naruto, Hamura was the one to speak up. All right, old friend, What could cause you to place somebody as young as Naruto into a program that is supposed to be given to him when he is at least close to becoming a teenager? The man asked, since he is like a walking law book, which helps Hiruzen and the elders completely whenever they go over the laws and make sure the civilian council don't try to put in false laws to take power from the shinobi and give it to them. Yes, Hiruzen, Kohara said, wanting to know what would cause her old friend to make such a move. You would usually be the one to prevent such things from happening to Naruto, so why the change of approach? Hiruzen gave a small sigh, but Shikaku was the one to answer, because if he didn't, then the civilian council would have, and the laws would be on their side because they would have said it would be. He started to explain. For the good of the village. Some finished, when she and the rest figured out that this was more for protecting Naruto in the future, while making sure the boy doesn't have to deal with dirty politics at such a young age. God, I hate that line. Don't we all, Danzo said, since he and his comrades heard that line used so many times, by so many sides. It's just so sad on how they are used. There are times when it's used more as a shield to give certain people a reason to do such despicable deeds, that it seems hard to tell if anybody truly knows what it's supposed to mean, including us. Indeed, Shibi said, deciding to continue business. Yet right now, I'm curious what things you have been hiding that you didn't want the civilian council, or even Fugaku Uchiha from finding out. Would you please explain it to us now? Hiruzen looked at Naruto, since it was mainly his secret that includes others, to tell, who gave him a nod of approval, since the boy is a good judge of character. So the Sandaime told them the whole truth, from how Naruto got his fox features, and how the fox itself is now getting a new life as a girl named Misaki Aiko. After everything was told, everybody understood right away why he kept that part away from the wrong element. Sim was the first to speak up. Wow, it's a good thing you decided not to tell them that. Those idiots would go too far on their so-called revenge to destroy both of their lives. She said, everybody else giving the Hokage an understanding nod, while also making sure not to scare Naruto too much on what could happen, especially to Misaki. Turning towards said boy, Naruto, I would like to meet Misaki and get to know her better. As would the rest of us, Hayashi said, getting agreement nods from the rest of the group, before turning towards the Hokage. And when you brought up the CRA, I get the feeling that it would be the other thing that you didn't want anybody else to know, Lord Hokage. Hiruzen gave a small nod. Yes, long before we received the notice of Naruto's so-called fate, young Naruto was tackled by 5 girls, from mothers, and 2 of my ANBU, hugging his tails. This caused the group to laugh at the first part, yet their jaws dropped after hearing that 2 ANBU, people trained to be professional when on duty, would just drop everything just to have a girly moment. And after helping Naruto not to get smothered to death, we put up a privacy seal and told them everything, from his lineage to his bloodlines, and when I brought up the CRA to the mothers, I guess you could say that in the future, Naruto already found his first set of brides. He then turned to the boy, who was blushing a bit, even though he has no idea why. Naruto, how did you feel about those girls that never left your side the entire time you were telling your story? Naruto was blushing a bit more. I'm not sure, it felt good, but I don't know why. He started to explain, the best he can since he is only 4 years old. It's like every time they smile, I feel happy, and want to do all that I can to keep them smiling like that. Everybody smiled at this, because they knew the boy would be going places, and he won't be traveling alone. Chozo walked up to the boy and gently placed his hand on his head, getting his attention. Relax, Naruto, sometimes the heart tends to know more than you do, he said, giving him advice that even he could understand. So Lord Hokage, who are the girls that would help Naruto restore his clan? Inochi asked. Him and Hayashi felt a cold shiver going down their spines, which usually meant that their wives wanted to have a little talk with them, meaning that they listen, and take whatever order they are given. Hiruzen's smile turned into a smirk, one usually reserved for Naruto whenever pranks are involved. Some days he understands the pleasure Naruto goes through whenever he decides to pull a prank on an unsuspecting target. Right now, he wishes he had a camera, especially considering that the fathers of some of those girls are right in front of him. The names of the girls are Misaki Aiko, of course, Sakura Haruno, Ino Yamanaka, Hinata Hyuga, Hanabi Hyuga, and Dawn Uchiha, he said, causing Inochi and Hayashi's jaws to fall to the floor, and from the looks of things, Ju and Asami already approve, so you know what means. Inochi and Hayashi knew exactly what it means, and both had depressed looks on their faces. With the wavy lines on them, it meant that their wives are already planning a wedding, and they have better not get in their way if they want to live. Inochi was the first to recover. Well, at least we know the boy than the alternative, he said, with a small smile. Hayashi looked up, with a smile of his own. Indeed, compared to some other options that I wouldn't wish on anybody's daughter, he said, considering how far his clan goes to make sure that the Byakugan belongs to only pure-blooded Hyuga, no matter what the cost. After everybody recovered from laughing at the poor men's expense, Tsum spoke up. So that's why you didn't reveal the girls at the meeting, she said. while Inochi's and Hayashi's pups would be safe from the rest of the village due to them being clan princesses. But with Misaki being now an orphan, and Mabuki's pup being civilian, the village would go out of their way to take them out, no matter what the reasons are. Along with keeping Dawn safe from Fugaku and the rest of the clan, Hayashi said, if he knew that his own daughter has fallen in love with the one that could be considered a threat to the clan, then he would try harder to kill Naruto, and do who knows what to his own daughter. This caused the adults to shake their heads in disappointment, with Naruto having a look on his face saying that he isn't sure if he wants to know. Anyway, I believe that we have kept Naruto away from his lady friend long enough, Hiruzen said, knowing that Naruto would want to spend the day helping Misaki getting used to having a flesh and blood body for the first time in her life. So shall we get going, Naruto? He asked, and since it's close to lunchtime, I bet I would love to meet Misaki for the first time. Naruto gave him a big grin, because it also meant that he would be getting ramen for lunch. Yeah, I can't wait to show the village to Misaki now that she can see things with her own eyes. He yelled out excited, before running towards the door. Giving the boy a slight chuckle/giggle, the rest of the group went about their day, thinking about what the future holds. It was now the next day, and Naruto and Misaki are enjoying a nice breakfast made by IM, after Naruto spent about an hour trying to get Misaki to wake up. Last night, a few hours after the meeting, Misaki, courtesy of Yugao, got to meet the rest of the Ice Queens, who were more than anxious to meet their younger sister, and more than willing to help her get used to her new body, since Naruto has enough common sense to step aside and let the experts give a couple bits of advices that would be most helpful for a little girl. After that, they decided to jokingly give Naruto the "if you do anything bad to her" line to him, which not only went over his head, with his fox features, when he asked them what they meant by it. While he tilted his head, he found himself in a four-way hug, and thanks to the girls starting puberty, found his head in a mattress of budding, which would make any guy really envious of him if they found out. Especially if picturing what it would look like in a few years when he and the girls that would be with him a few years. After being allowed to breathe and recovering from a wave of odd feelings, the rest of the night was spent between Naruto and Misaki, talking, and getting used to enjoying the others' company outside of Naruto's head. Back to today, Hiruzen dropped by the stand, about a couple of hours after Naruto and Misaki had lunch there, which included IM giving Naruto a tight hug, although unlike the ones that came before, IM wasn't much older than him, was just her hugging him from behind while he is sitting on his stool, with her standing up, and petting his ears, along with stroking his tails. That it took both Tucci and Misaki to snap her out of her little girly moment. While she knew that the Hokage was hiding a few things from her and her father, while she is still a kid herself, she can already figure out why, considering how many people she heard dissing Naruto. When she arrived, she just gave both of them a small hug. They went back to the bedroom to change clothes, while IM made them something simple, which were omelets, with different fillings, ham and cheese for Naruto, salmon and cream cheese for Misaki, and for herself, a veggie omelet, while they all had a glass of orange juice to wash them down with. They had a nice conversation, with IM getting to know Misaki a bit more, especially the stuff that she knew the Sandane was trying to keep away from certain ears, especially the ones with really violent owners. And the fact that IM accepted the fact that Misaki was the QB, and now, a human who is finally being allowed to live her own life again, is a big relief for both kids. So Misaki, how does it feel to be human for real? IM asked. After taking a sip of her juice, different, but still, feels good. Misaki answered, while I'm still getting used to not transforming into a giant fox, along with the fact that my ears are lower, and I no longer feel what I used to have near my butt when I had tails, but it's what wanted for so long, especially as long as I'm free, and have Naruto by my side, I should be just fine. After she said that, a smile started growing on her face. And Naruto, how does it feel to have a roommate? Especially a girl roommate, IM asked, wanting to put the boy on the spot, while making sure she doesn't end up being the one to give Naruto the birds and the bees talk a few years ahead of schedule. Well, it's nice to not being alone at night, Naruto said, especially since Misaki is so pretty, he said, causing said girl to give off a blush, not knowing that what he is doing is going to have an effect that keeps getting stronger in the future, although I'm still wondering about one thing. And what's that? IM asked, while taking a drink of her orange juice. Well, Gramps said yesterday that Misaki and a few other girls are going to be my future wives and sounding like we are to rebuild a clan, Naruto said, finally starting to wonder what was said during his day-long ordeal. But how are we supposed to do that? This question caused IM to start choking on her juice, and Misaki to have a dreamy look on her face, trying to picture her life with Naruto, without the extras that would be enjoying their lives with him as well. After recovering from her ordeal, IM wasn't sure how to approach that, since she herself, who is only 5 years older than the two, had only learned about the birds and the bees from her parents about a couple of months ago, and even though she comes off as a know-it-all when it comes to certain things, the answer to Naruto's question is just too embarrassing, at least for her. to explain about to somebody who probably isn't ready to hear it. As if answering a prayer, knock knock knock, somebody was at Naruto's door. I got it, Ayam said, as she practically leapt out of her seat, anxious for a way out of her predicament. The two left behind watched as the older girl hurried off to answer Naruto's door, wondering if Ayam is feeling okay. They then looked at each other and just shrugged it off. I guess we have to ask a grown-up about this, Misaki said, as both decided to finish up their breakfast. Yeah, I guess so, Naruto said in agreement, while finishing off his juice. As soon as he placed the empty glass onto the table, his breakfast now done, he got tackled by 5 different colored streaks, which revealed the 5 girls Naruto and Misaki met in the Hokage's office, while said girl's right brow was twitching, because her time with Naruto came to a literal crashing halt. At the door, Mabuki, Mikoto, Ju, Asami, along with Kuramaru, Hana, and her trio of dogs, Inochi, Hayashi, and some guy that Naruto hasn't met before, were having a good laugh at the scene before them. Yet he can tell that he must be Sakura's father, due to the fact that he has what appears to be naturally pink hair sticking out like a cherry blossom, along with sideburns that seem to double as a mustache. They laughed even harder when it became a battle once Misaki demanded that they make room for her. While most people would believe that Hayashi is humorless, that in itself was far from the truth. While he takes his job as clan head seriously, along with being a husband, father, brother, uncle to his family, he also isn't afraid to show his happiness whenever he is with his family and friends. One of the things he refuses to find humorous in the slightness bit, especially when it comes to the main house, and his ex-clan elders, is how they look down on both the branch house and others they consider beneath them just because they come from an elite clan, acting similar to most of the Uchiha clan, which is one of the main reasons behind the rivalry. Things were going good at what they were watching, until the girls started to pull Naruto in different directions, giving him the stuffed animal treatment, to where if not stopped, they would do the boy some serious harm, and not just physically. Hayashi stepped forward and gave a loud cough, getting the girls' attention from their little plight. Girls, Naruto is not some toy you can fight over. The girls looked down, feeling ashamed, while releasing their grip on him, realizing what they were doing to him considering how he is rubbing the parts of his body from their little tug-of-war on him. Asami stepped up and put her hand on her husband's shoulder, taking over from where he started. Girls, we know how excited you are to be with Naruto again, but what you just did was something one shouldn't do to another human being, ever. Tackling because you even really like somebody, is okay, especially if you have feelings for the boy, causing the 6 girls to blush, even though they have no idea what feelings the woman is talking about when it comes to Naruto, but treating him like he is some toy, some kind of doll, mainly, some kind of possession, to where you don't want to share him with others, that is something you should never do to any living being. Realizing what they were doing to Naruto, we're sorry Naruto, Ino said, as tears were coming out of the girl's eyes, feeling bad that, unlike yesterday, which was more peaceful, more respectful, today, but just a few minutes ago, they treated their new friend badly once they tackled him. Yeah, Naruto, sorry. Dawn said, we were so excited to see you, we ended up treating you like how our mothers act whenever there is a sale at the clothes store. It's okay girls, just be more careful next time, Naruto said, while placing Hinata and Sakura in an arm hug, while wrapping the rest in his tails, to help make them feel better. Meanwhile, it was the mother's turn to blush, because of the fact that even though they are the best of friends and all are, or were, great kunoichi, yet whenever they come across a clearance sale at one of their favorite stores, well, bets are off and everybody better steer clear if they want to live. It didn't help matters any when Hana, the husbands, and even the dogs, were laughing at their expense. Deciding to change the subject quickly, okay Naruto, Misaki, are you both ready to go shopping? Ju asked, wanting to get the spotlight off of her. Yes, we would, Misaki said, feeling better, although she put on a pout, along with the rest of the girls, because they were enjoying being hugged by Naruto, even if the hugs were by tails. Yeah, sure, Naruto said, as he walked up to the group. When he noticed a new face, who's this? Naruto asked, about the man standing next to Mabuki. Mabuki had a bit of a blush on her cheeks because she didn't get the chance to introduce her husband, who decided to introduce himself. Hello Naruto, my Kizashi and I'm an old friend of your father's, the man said, as he offered a hand. When he shook it, Naruto asked, so where is, what do they call them, tie-dye shirt? This had 2 different reactions, the man to release the boy's hand and drop his head, while a storm cloud appeared over his head, and everybody around him, other than Naruto and Misaki, started laughing/giggling at his expense, especially his own daughter. Apparently this isn't the first time made a crack at him, especially due to his pink hair. While his family is known for their natural pink hair, unfortunately, for the men at least, makes them wide open for jokes, especially, although these tend to go too far when pointed out, what side of the fence they sit on. Once or twice, he had a couple of friends who did use that joke on him, and when he tells them how it hurts him, well, one friend apologized and promised not to do it again, which that person never did, and the other, well, stopped being a friend and became a bully instead. Deciding to get going while the going is good, okay everyone, let us be off, Mikoto said. Wait, Naruto said, putting on the brakes. First, me and Misaki have to help Ayam with the dishes. Ayam waved a small hand up. No, Naruto, it's okay, I can handle it myself, she said, appreciating all the times Naruto would try to help her. Not wanting to hear any of it. No, you're going to get some help, whether you like it or not, even if it's not from me, he said, as he walked towards a window, knowing that an ANBU would be watching. While getting curious looks from everybody in the room, Naruto opened a window and yelled out, "Hey, somebody tell Kakashi to get his butt over here now." While some people admired the boy's tenacity to order one of the village's highest-ranking ninja like that, yet at the same time, they knew that, even though nobody has any real obligation to listen to Naruto and he knows this, which is why he only does it when he needs something, and if the person who doesn't do it, and has a good reason, he lets it go. If it's bad then, depending on how bad the reason, or the lie, a prank is in the immediate future, especially if they show up late. In Kakashi's case, who was probably late the day he was born, he not only took too long, yet gave an excuse so bad, that by the next day, Naruto was able to enter his apartment at night, and somehow, turned his hair into a rainbow-color afro, and due to the fact that he somehow didn't notice until he reached ANBU HQ, gave him a bunch of clown outfits. That he didn't know why most of the village was laughing at him, until somebody pointed at him towards a mirror. The screen was the icing on the cake when Naruto actually made him look like a clown, and now, he makes sure that if he isn't on duty, Naruto might pull off with his little threat of making him look like a Might Guy clone, which is considered far scarier than clowns for some people. Hell, if the Hokage is willing to let Naruto help with the discipline with his pranks, while only using Ibiki for the seriously hard cases, then a lot of folks, ninja and civilian alike, better pray they don't end up on the Hokage's light shit list, meaning easily fixable. About a minute later, Kakashi appeared in a swirl of leaves, in what would be a typical Jonin uniform, meaning that he is off duty, and his ANBU uniform is at home. You rang Naruto? He asked, his nose in an Ika book, not realizing how much in the danger zone he is in. A threateningly slow Kakashi rang out, causing him to turn into a statue of fear, with his eye wide open, because while he can recognize the disdain in the voices, which he gets every time he reads his book in public, and is used to, but also recognize the voice itself. Stiffly turning his head towards the voice, he notices Mabuki, Ju, Asami, Sum and Mikoto had a look that promised severe pain, considering they were all cracking their knuckles. When he noticed the husbands, along with Hana and the dogs keeping their distance, he knew he crossed the line somewhere. When he looked around to check his surroundings, he noticed Naruto, the girl from the ramen stand, Ayam, Misaki, and the daughters of said mothers. He now realized why his life is in danger of ending early. The only words coming to his mind are "oh shit." Deciding to save the poor fool, ladies, as much as I would enjoy seeing you pound Kakashi down to the ground floor, but I still need his help with something, Naruto said, causing the mothers to back down, and Kakashi to release the breath he was holding while giving Naruto a thank you look, although he took the hint when Naruto looked at his hand, which pretty much told him to stash the book if he wants to leave in one piece. Sensing that the air has calmed a bit, anyway Kakashi, I need you to help Ayam with the dishes, and with all the bad people in the village, escort her home safely. Ayam blushed a bit, because even though unintentional, and supposed to be harmless, Naruto was making sure her crush was there to help her out, and protect her, although some gets speculate the boy for playing matchmaker. Kakashi gave Naruto a curious look. You called me here to help somebody with a chore and be a bodyguard for them? He asked, not liking the idea of having to do something during his time off. Well, besides reading those books and feeling sad about what happened in the past, what else do you do when you're not working? Naruto asked, pretty much saying Kakashi doesn't really have much of a life. And from what I have been told about my parents, we both know what they would do if they found out if you are still living in the past. Kakashi looked down, knowing exactly what they would do. Minato would tell him to get over all his loses, stop looking in the future, and start living in the now, because the future isn't going anywhere. Kushina, well, she would go for the direct approach, which would be literally give him a kick in the butt for wallowing in his own misery, and break every bone in his body for reading a certain pervert's books in front of her son. Mainly, Naruto is trying to get him back on track. Besides, would you rather deal with them? Naruto asked, pointing towards the mothers. Kakashi took one look and shivered. Those five were not only Kushina's best friends, but also, amongst the meanest pervert haters because whenever they caught somebody taking a peep at them, especially a certain old toad, well, it would be a miracle if they can get back to eating solid food again. I'll wash, he said, heading towards the kitchen, with I am not too far behind, blush still there. Naruto turned towards the adults. Well, time to go, he said. The adults, along with the teen and dogs, couldn't help but laugh at how innocent Naruto can be when it comes to certain things, just as they left with the kids for their little shopping trip, although if one were listened carefully, you could hear some weeping coming from the men's pockets, like their wallets know how big of a workout they're about to get. Hokage's office. In the office, while his clones were at work at the paperwork, dealing with the daily garbage that came from the civilians and civilian council, which are becoming too predictable, to where he and his friends have enough of them to start a fire for the next winter. Something he learned years ago, when the civilians started to get too full of themselves to where they started to think that the shinobi are the servants, although he, along with Danzo, Hamura and Koharu, were pretty steamed when some of the council members, mainly male, or mothers of certain kids, crossed a line when they either tried to force a marriage between their kids and one of the clan kids, mainly as an excuse to gain more power, or even tried to ask for the ninja, mainly kunoichi, for more personal services, that not only was there a law to make such requests illegal, but also let other ninjas know that if anyone within the village, no matter who they are, tries such things, can report to him, or the elders, to make things right. At the moment, he was chuckling at what he seen going on at Naruto's apartment through his little crystal ball, especially when it came to Kakashi. While he told Naruto to be careful when it comes to being bossy, and also, when not to abuse such a thing, he couldn't help but laugh on how the boy unintentionally played matchmaker, even though chances are, might just lose interest in Kakashi, and find somebody else. That's how life usually is, it's never a constant thing, especially individually. He also gave a small sigh, because when the time comes, he would have to give Naruto the birds and the bees talk a few years down the road, while he has to find a kunoichi willing to give it to Misaki. Something he wishes Minato and Kushina were around to do so. While he would look for somebody to take care of Naruto, yet, the ones he can think of are bad choices. Kakashi would just toss the boy a book, one of his Ika books, and have him read it, which is something, he would admit, would try to do himself, yet that would result in a loss of a certain body part he is very fond of. Jiraiya, one of his most loyal students, and one of the biggest perverts on the planet, would probably drag the boy with him on his research, or a brothel, and have one of the ladies there give the boy a hands-on lesson in such things, although if the boy has his parents' luck, some of the girls would fall in love with the boy like a little brother instead, while pounding the poor dolt into the ground for trying to corrupt an innocent child. Ibiki, well, he would just plain old tell Naruto to find somebody else since he has been too focused on his career than finding love. Asuma and Shikaku would be too lazy to tell him. The Ice Queens, along with Tsunade, his other student who is in self-exile, would give the boy mixed messages, along with scare the boy out of building his family when the time comes, especially by giving him the warning they tend to give to perverts. Shizen, the young lady that Tsunade took under her wing, would be a safe bet, yet, like Tsunade, both need to be found first. Elders, no, since chances are they might draft him to do it, because in all four of their opinions, they only need to embarrass one old fogey when that time comes. To put it simply, unless a miracle happens, that is one awkward talk that Hiruzen would have to give again. I'm going to make it where graduation age at the academy would be between 17 and 18, meaning that Irika still has about a few years before becoming a genin, since he is about 14 in this FIC. Right now, Hiruzen's main concern is to make sure nobody does any kind of serious harm to Naruto, and by extension, his girls, whether they are on the council, in the clan, or part of the populace, or even if they are from the outside of the village. Because even in times of peace, there is always some village, or at least somebody within the village, that either has an axe to grind due to the past wars, or just bored, to where they don't care how many lives they get to destroy, as long as they get to control the outcome. While the villagers are a part of his concerns, the rest is coming from the fact that today is the day that an envoy from Kumo, an ambassador, is visiting the village to sign a treaty between the two villages. While it may seem fine for those who look at things at a certain eye level, for those like those who are trained to read between the lines, sounds too good to be true, especially from a place like Kumo. There has been some blood between the two for a long time, which got worse during the war, when they had a hand in the fall of Yuzu, and made even worse when some of their ninja tried to kidnap Kushina from her home so that they can turn one of the last living Uzumaki into breeding stock, while also using whatever was in her blood that helped keep demons at bay when sealed inside somebody with that specific type of blood. They even tried to pull the fast one after Minato saved her, only to backfire, when Danzo's root did the interrogation and revealed not only Kumo's plans, but also the conspirators in the village who basically let them in, which was a merchant who wasn't only pleased that the village had one of the last Uzumaki in the village, especially one with a demon inside her, but also was a parent of one of the kids Kushina pounded into the ground after calling her tomato, which was what led to her famous nickname, the red hot-blooded habanero. And now, even though the current Reikage, who is known for being a major hard-ass, has apologized for those on his council for going behind his back to pull off kidnapping a Konoha kunoichi and risk a war just for their own benefit. He even admits that while like other Kage, He puts his village first, yet he would never risk his village's integrity just to get an edge. Unfortunately, his council decided to pick the perfect scapegoat, who was actually loyal to him, and didn't have anything to prove it otherwise, although he helped fake the man's death, at least, until he can get rid of the all bad elements in his village. Hiruzen called in his secretary, or rather, his new one picked by his friends who they know would do their job like they are supposed to, and not let their personal feelings get in the way. Have an A&B go and notify the elders that I require their presence in my office ASAP. He ordered. Yes, sir. The secretary said, doing as she was ordered. Looking back at the crystal ball, watching as the group walked through the village, not caring about the world at the moment. I hope my bad feeling is for naught, otherwise, lives might be changed tonight. He said to nobody in particular. Back with the group. While walking towards the place that the mothers were talking about the other day, with Itachi joining the formation since he wants to make sure that Naruto, along with his mother and sister, stay safe from the wrong people, while also making sure to give Naruto some more male support, since he, along with the husbands, are outnumbered 12-4, with Itachi making it 12-5, and 4 dogs. To put it simply, while Naruto might get away with a slip of the tongue, or even compliment the girls, mainly because he is too young to know what he is saying, or the girls for what is being said, the rest, well, to put it simply, none of them better do something to ruin the mood of the day. Otherwise, it would either be the couch for a certain amount of time, or the hospital, depending on the mood, especially if any of them go into overprotective father mode. Itachi, while he still is the overprotective older brother, after protecting Naruto, he knows that Dawn would be happy with him, but Fugaku and a good portion of the Uchiha clan, he needs to be ready if they take things too far. Naruto and the girls are having a little kid talk, with Hana adding her 2 cents every once in a while, because even though she is an academy student, she still has a tendency to act like a sister. What kind, depends on the person. I'm going to making it where the Ice Queens are all from 18 to 20, or rather, I upped Hana's age from her canon one, since in the canon, she is about 8 years younger than Kurenai. 5 for you gal, the rest would be canon age, mainly because I have no complete idea what I'm doing with this story and winging it in some parts. Deciding to start a little small talk, so Itachi, how do you feel about your little sister finding her fiancé so early in life? Kizashi asked, talking to the only somewhat social able male Uchiha in their group, since most of the clan tends to have a really bad god complex. Itachi kept his eyes forward, like Hayashi and Inochi, along with the women, because even though the kids are just having a good time, and are, or seem, to be unaware of some of the villagers sending evil looks, even murmuring over not only Naruto's new look, but also the fact that there are kids his age actually being friendly with him. While most of the village, ninja included, would know better than to try anything, especially with so many powerful people who are willing to protect and defend him from just about anything, and although there are still those idiots who just have to try their luck, especially at the backing of a council member or two. Itachi gave a brief look at Kizashi, not letting his guard down even by a little bit when his family, and the boy he sees more as a brother than his own brother, are in danger of somebody's bigotry. I feel fine with Dawn being with Naruto, even if she has to share him. Especially better than the alternative. Itachi said, referring to the customs that his father, along with a good portion of his clan, mainly elders and most of the higher-grade Uchihas, enforces to keep the bloodline pure, meaning, she would be married off to a Uchiha, a cousin, and if she gets her Sharingan early, even the Mangekyo Sharingan, she would be forced to give her eyes to Sasuke so he can get the eternal Mangekyo, while getting a pair of ordinary eyes so that she doesn't upstage the clan favorite to succeed Fugaku Itachi. Lost that right when the clan felt Mikoto had made him too soft. Hayashi nodded his head, just as he caught a flying stone that would have hit one of his daughters, and sent it flying towards its sender, hitting a man right between the eyes, yet only hard enough to leave a bruise, as it knocked him out. Indeed, which is why I don't want either of my daughters to go through a tradition that should have stopped years ago, yet my former clan elders were a stickler to tradition. Asami, who was holding his hand, and after we had a talk with Tsunade about if what the clan is doing to keep the bloodline pure more harmful and good, well, and this is before we decided to have the twins. She said. And what did she say? Mikoto asked, while all the other adults, and young adults, were curious, especially Mikoto, Itachi, and Sim, whose clans practice strict clan marriage laws. Hayashi gave a small sign. She says that it could actually destroy a clan, because even though the tradition started around the same time the clan became divided, and somebody is the cousin of somebody, yet by now, it won't be long until at some point, the clans start to marry their cousins who also happen to be their siblings, and that would also cause some serious health issues. He explained, getting everybody, including Itachi, to widen their eyes at the revelation, not needing to hear any more at what that could mean. The clan gets destroyed from the inside out due to genes alone. Which is why we wanted to make sure our daughters don't become the next to uphold the tradition, because even though traditionally, One of them would have been the next heir. If the old council was still around, they might try to manipulate things to their advantage. Now they understood what Hayashi has been dealing with, along with making sure the new council works with him on reunification of the clans, but also what traditions and what rules needs to be changed. And right now, the other clan to deal with, especially on Naruto's part, is the Uchiha clan, since he seems to be a threat to the pecking order that most of the Uchihas tend to follow. Basically, Mikoto and Itachi have their hands full, making sure their clan don't do something so reckless, especially against the village. Over with the kids, who were just talking away with each other, oblivious to the world around them, or rather, Naruto and Nasaki noticed the glares from most of the village adults, yet they didn't really care. Which ticked them off, because some high official told them that they were doing some harm to the boy mentally and emotionally, yet here he was brushing them off, like, at least for them, like he was above them. And for the extreme bigots, especially the ones with kids who they have been training, brainwashing, into wanting to hate, even hurt Naruto to where they might actually kill him, starting to lose its effect on most of them, mainly for most of the daughters, who found Naruto's features to be really cute, and wanting to hug him, while a small few of the boys became a bit envious of Naruto having animal features, and both sides thinking how cool it would be to have them. So Naruto, how do you get your ears and tails to move the way they do? Ino asked. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders. I don't know, I think my ears just show how I'm feeling and my tails, well, not really sure. He started to explain the best he can. Sometimes they do what I want, and sometimes, feels like they do what want to do. So when you wrap your tails around us, was that you, or were your tails acting on their own? Hanabi asked, causing the girls to blush at the memories of feeling warm and secured while being wrapped by those tails. Naruto started to give off a little blush as well. The first time, I'm not really sure. The other time, I guess since you girls look sad, I guess my tails responded. He explained. The girls felt warm inside because of the fact that the boy was concerned about their feelings. So Naruto, besides new clothes, what else will you need? Ino asked. The shopaholic still hasn't reached halfway to critical mass. Naruto looked up, and placed his finger under his chin in a thinking manner, causing the girls walking around, and the girls, young and old, along with a few young women, to develop hearts in their eyes at how cute he looks, to the dissatisfaction of the people who despise him. I don't really know. When it comes to shopping, I'm lucky to find a place that would treat me like a kid before something stops them, or somebody actually tries to sell me something that has expired, only for my guards to arrest them, and get me better food to eat, he said. The adults heard this, and while angry that people in this village would really go that far, they also felt guilty because even though they tried to protect Naruto during council meetings, yet the only ones to actually look out for him are Hiruzen, Kakashi, Itachi, Tsuchi, Iam, and a good portion of the ANBU. They called themselves friends of Minato and Kushina, yet, even though their main reason was that, except for Kazashi and Mizuki, everybody else had clans to run, and also, make sure they don't do anything to Naruto, while said pair were more worried about themselves, especially what were to happen to Sakura, if they tried to get close to him. Noticing that they've reached their destination, okay kiddos, we're here, some said. The kids turned to see a 2-story building, with a sign that said weapons and stuff, which also had what looked like a kunai chasing a stick figure that is running hard. Noticing Naruto looking a little nervous, because unlike most stores, this one would be like walking into an armory, and understanding why, don't worry Naruto, the person who runs the store won't do anything unless you give him a good reason to. Inochi said, and he also knows it's better to get to know somebody in person than to rely on rumors spread by people who don't know any better. Especially since his wife knows how to use all the weapons in the store. Itachi said, causing everybody male, including Naruto who has no idea why, to feel a strong shiver go down their spines. When they all walked into the store, a bell rang out, along with a seal lighting up, to let the people running the store know they have customers. Why don't you girls go look around while we get Naruto and Nasaki taken care of? Mabuki said, getting a nod from the 5 girls, before they went off to check out the merchandise. When the girls left, an average-sized man with long dark hair that reached past his shoulders, with muscles showing that most of the weapons in the store were indeed made by his hands. Looking at the group, especially recognizing Naruto, even with the extra features, despite the fact that this would be the first time he met the boy, along with a red-headed girl that can pass as a mini Kushina. Hello, Kizashi, Mabuki, Hayashi, Asami, Inochi, Ju, Mikoto, Itachi, Tsum, Hana, how are you all doing? The man asked. Kizashi answered, hello Masamune, we are doing fine. How about you? Just as he, along with the rest of the group, shook his hand. Oh, I'm doing fine. Just business as usual. As the now introduced Masamune answered, before looking at 2 kids, and looks like, along with your daughters, you brought me 2 more future customers, he said, with a small smile on his face. Mabuki decided to reply yes, and as you are probably aware already, this is Naruto Uzumaki, she said, introducing the fox boy, and his friend, Misaki Aiko, pointed towards the redhead. We are here to help them with their shopping, especially when it came to things they'll need in the future. Masamune nodded his head at this, for he too wanted to help Naruto, not caring if the civilian council, along with any hate groups, threw a fit and tried something on him, because they knew that if you piss him off, he would throw everything at them that would be considered a deadly weapon, whether from a bunch of kunai to the kitchen sink. Hell, one time, he threw the original Shikinocho trio at a few council members who were pushing their luck, and knocked said council members, along with his weapons, out with one shot each. Turning to the pair, then I'll be more than pleased to help these young ones get a head start, he said before walking up to the pair. I'll go get my wife, Peggy. She is pretty much the one who handles the fabric part of the business, he said, just as he got ready to head towards the hall that connected the store to the smelting room, which also had stairs that lead to the residence floor where he and the family lives in. Excuse me, Masamune, Mikoto said, getting the man's attention. Is your daughter here? Yes, Tenten is here, Masamune said. She's upstairs. I'll go get her, so you can introduce her to Loverboy there. When the man left, Naruto looked at the adults and, with a curious look, asked them what does he mean by Loverboy. The adults couldn't help but chuckle/giggle at the boy's question. You'll find out when you're older, Naruto, Itachi answered. About a couple minutes later, Masamune came back with a golden brown woman, that is about an inch shorter than him, and a little girl that is a hair taller than Naruto, whose brown hair was put up in a pair of buns that made her look like a panda cub. Introducing the pair, Naruto, Misaki, may I introduce you to my wife, Peggy, and my daughter Tenten, he said before noticing, after looking beside himself, and towards the pair, said family members giving Naruto the stuffed animal treatment. A sweat drop appeared on his head, because of the fact he never seen them moved, and seeing his daughter drop the tomboy attitude to let her girly side take over. Even the other adults, along with the two young adults, had sweat drops, while the rest of the young girls looked like they wanted to stake their claim once again. This time around, Naruto took action, since it was just his ears and tails that were getting petted, and the life wasn't being squeezed out of him. Excuse me, miss, Naruto said, getting the two females' attention, would you mind letting go of me? I'm not used to having adults give me this kind of attention yet. Realizing what she was doing, and noticing what her daughter was doing, which was invading somebody's personal space, Peggy's eyes widened, before she grabbed Tenten by the shoulder and took a few steps back, to her daughter's disappointment if the pout on her face was anything to go by. We're sorry, Naruto, we don't know what came over us, Peggy said. It's fine, but I'm starting to become afraid if this becomes too much of a regular thing for me, Naruto said, while Itachi and Hayashi gave a slight shiver, because they know that soon, Naruto will be getting his own fan club soon, and chances are, compared to theirs, it might turn out to be astronomical. Deciding to get back to business, anyway, Naruto, Masaki, Peggy said, while she looked at both kids when she said their names, from what Masamune has told me, you two would like to have some new clothes made. Misaki decided to speak up. Yes, ma'am. While we don't know if you sell regular clothes, me and Naruto want to get some clothes to help with our training. Oh, call me Peggy. Ma'am makes me sound like somebody who act like they are better than everybody, the woman answered, and while do sell civilian clothes, but more for our older customers that are either already ninja, or about to retire. Then her mind caught what Misaki just said. Training? You two look to be about 4 and you're already training? Naruto answered, well, by now, everybody in the village should know about some changes involving me, and I don't want to be anybody's punching bag, so I want to start learning on how to defend myself, he said, causing both Masamune and Peggy to give a really angry and disappointed look, because they knew how the boy was viewed, and all the attempts to destroy him, and since I have 2 bloodlines now, I don't want to depend on them too much, unless I plan to scare some stupid villagers thinking that they can get away with starting something. And I'm not sure if I want to be a ninja, but don't mean a girl can't learn to protect herself, right? Misaki said, getting a damn straight from Hana and the mothers, but hey, I still have time to decide, right? Of course, Asami said, only you get to control your life, everybody else, well, depends on who you are in the future. Not bringing up the fact that since Misaki isn't from a clan, then she isn't required to become a ninja, especially if you're a clan heir from an elite clan. Anyway, back to business, Peggy said, as she went to the counter to get her measure tape, along with a pencil and a pad of paper. I need to take your measurements, and see what I can do. After doing the necessary measurements, along with making sure where to place the hole for Naruto's tails, okay, I should have everything ready for you two within a week or 2, she said, getting a nod from the pair, before she turned towards the parents. Don't suppose you want me to do the same thing for your daughters? She asked, because I'm pretty sure Tenten would probably want to join their training. Causing said girl to blush in embarrassment because what her mother said was spot on. I think we better ask them before we get in trouble with them. Inochi said, getting nods from the fathers, considering that they have been whipped by both their wives and daughters, before they left, causing the wives to giggle. Itachi, Hana, why don't you two help Naruto and Masaki get the equipment they'll need for training? Mikoto said, getting a nod from the pair, as the mothers left to provide backup for their husbands, and Sim decided to stand guard to make sure nobody tries something. After getting the necessary items, from fake weapons to books on jutsus, with Tenten wanting to show the pair, mainly Naruto, around the store, they came across what looked like a bunch of swords that come in different shapes and sizes, yet look like they can combine into one big sword. Naruto took an interest in them. Are those a part of the same sword? He asked. Masamune, who noticed the spark that he sees all the time, whether ninja or future ninja, no matter what the age, that seemed to say somebody found their matching weapons. Well, in a way, depending on how you look at it, they are part of a big sword, or the big sword is really a few smaller swords that become part of each other, then yeah. He said, getting their attention, it's called the first Tsurugi, it's a Gatai Ken, or for a better reference, look up Cloud's fusion sword from FFVI, Advent Children movie, and each piece is designed to fight on its own, while also can be combined into a more devastating form. He explained, although my biggest problem is that I need to sell it as a full set, yet all the customers want to buy only a piece or two, especially after they find out how heavy the sword is when combined. He then looked down at his daughter, and I refuse to sell it to Tenten because I feel these swords because they won't fit the styles she has been looking into, along with what her mother would do to me if I did. This caused Tenten to give a pout, because when she gave her the puppy dog eyes, that got countered by her mother's don't do it if you want to live look. Apparently, mothers will overcome daughters' demands any day. How much are they as a whole? Naruto asked, getting everybody's attention. Masamune was about to laugh at the boy for wanting something that is hard to sell, even wondering how he plans to use all those swords when he noticed the boy's 9 tails, and it clicked that the swords would be perfect for Naruto, especially if the tails can be used like hands, then whether in one piece, all 6 pieces, or a mixture number. With the right training, Naruto would be a force to be reckoned with, along with whatever else he learns. Well, my boy, those swords cost, insert price here, but I think I'll give them to you for, insert smaller price here, along with some training weapons so that you can develop your style, and a sealing scroll so that way, nobody tries to force them out of your hands. He said. Getting a nod of understanding, okay, is there anything else we need to get? Naruto asked. When the rest of the group went to pay for everything, which was taken care of by Hayashi, when he was talked into it by his girls, with his wife promising something extra that night if he also helped with the protection of the group, which is why the group had a small group of Hyuga guards to watch near the group while Root and Anbu provided cover in the shadows. Well, Naruto, we already covered your needs training-wise, now we have to get you and Masaki some regular clothes and a few other things for your apartment. Ju said, and don't worry, the place we're going to won't give us any trouble, especially if they know what's good for them. After getting everything bought and put into seals, can I have the scroll that contains Naruto's swords? Itachi asked, while approaching the counter, getting everyone's attention. I intend to hand them to the Hokage so that he can keep them safe from the wrong hands. He explained. Once everybody nodded, understanding the reason behind it, although Mikoto also knew one of the main reason behind his reason, which was making sure her husband, nor her youngest son, ended up seeing and demanding that he hand over the swords to the so-called elites. After getting the intended scroll, I shouldn't be too long, he said before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. After the rest of the scrolls were sealed into a bigger one, and handed to Hayashi, the group stepped out to notice what looked like some ANBU escorting an important-looking official along with his envoy. Masaki was the one to ask, what is going on here? Some spoke up, that is the ambassador from Kumo, who is here to discuss peace between the villages. Mikoto continued, after so many wars, and a couple of other things done that could lead to more, right now, some villages just want to do whatever they can to prevent war. When the ambassador was checking out the village, Naruto noticed when the man's eyes landed on his new friends, that they had a look that didn't right to him. When he took one look at Naruto, all kinds of alarms went off when the guy looked like he wanted to end him, which led to Naruto to unconsciously activate his Rinne Sharingan eyes, which shocked the guy, before continuing on. Hinata was the first to notice Naruto with his eyes on. Naruto, why did you activate your eyes? She asked, getting a lot of people's attention on the boy. Finally noticing the change of vision, Naruto shook his head to deactivate them. I don't know. When that guy looked at you girls, something felt wrong about it, he said, a shiver going down his spine, but when he looked at me, I noticed he gave me a look like he wanted to do something really evil to me. The older portion of the group picked up on this as well, getting the suspicion that what happened to Kushina might be happening again soon. Do you know which girls in specific, Naruto? Hayashi asked, remembering how during the war, more than once, Kumo shinobi seemed to be under orders to capture a Hyuga, especially a main house one, to gain a Byakugan. Naruto thought a bit. I think he was looking more at Dawn, he started answering, while pointing at each girl in no particular order, Hanabi and Hinata. This set off the alarms of said parents, because even though the envoy says peace, yet in the ninja world, instead of Kuma wanting peace with Konoha, they would want a peace from instead, meaning they could be planning to have some baby factories involving their daughter, and who knows what involving Naruto, although more likely, assassination attempt to keep him from posing a threat to their containers. While Hayashi would make sure the security in the Hyuga compound be pulling triple duty to keep his daughters safe, Fugaku would be a bit of an issue, because right now, from what used to be their friend once upon a time, let his clan's reputation affect his judgment. While Itachi didn't give in to the Uchiha curse of arrogance, now Fugaku is more focused on converting Sasuke, while not seeming to care about his own daughter. He might even think nobody is dumb enough to kidnap an Uchiha, and one was kidnapped, he would make it the victim's fault. Deciding to change the mood, especially since most of the mothers would never let anything, not even a bad mood, ruin their shopping day. Anyway, come on everybody, we still have some shopping to do, Ju said, getting everybody's attention. And while everybody walked, the men gave a small sigh, knowing that after this, and lunch, their wallets are going to be hollow before the day is up. Hokage's office. The quad of elderly leaders were watching the whole event on Hiruzen's crystal ball, and while being old war veterans themselves, to wear anything from what used to be, and might still be, an enemy village, would always be suspicious, especially when it comes to creating peace. And after noticing the ambassador getting a slight gleam in his eye, along with a couple of members of his envoy having questionable looks, and with hearing what Naruto said, what little suspicion about this being a farce is becoming more clearer. When a knock was heard, "Come," Hiruzen said, wondering what good reason somebody would have to come into his office when told not to be disturbed. When Itachi came in with a scroll, "My apologies for intruding, Lord Hokage, I thought this would be safe with you," he said, while holding out a scroll. "And what would be so important in that scroll that would require you to use my office as a safety deposit box?" Hiruzen asked, although having a good idea why. "Well, Naruto picked his weapon, or rather weapons, which is the first Tsurugi," Itachi said, getting their attention, "since those swords are pretty much known as unsellable in the village due to the fact that Masamune made it a requirement that you buy the whole set, and not just a single piece, and putting two and two together, they know that in the future, anybody who dares to mess with Naruto, villager or ninja, better have one hell of a death wish, and I figured it would be better if you put them into safekeeping since some of the villagers would use these to justify their fears even more, or somebody from my clan, mainly my father and Sasuke, would demand Naruto to hand them over." Hiruzen nodded at this, because even though he, his comrades, and most of the clans, as well as good portion of the ninja population, are looking out for Naruto, if the villagers, along with the civilian council, found out that Naruto would become even stronger, since Naruto is still a civilian, they would try to find some laws to abuse to their advantage in order to destroy him. "Very well, you can leave them here, and they can be picked up by Naruto when you, or whoever trains him in the ways of the swords, feel that he is ready to retrieve them," the old Sarutobi said, taking the scroll from one of the few Uchiha willing to work for a living. "And Itachi, you might want to tell the parents, especially your mother and Hayashi, that they might want to take extra precaution because the Kumo ambassador might have ulterior motives." Itachi gave a small nod, while calm on the outside, but inside, thinking what he would do to the visitors from Kumo if they so much as try anything on his baby sister. "I will, Lord Hokage," the young man said, getting ready to exit, before dropping off one last, and also cryptic, message, "And also, I'm to tell you that certain things should come to fruition real soon, and it won't be long until certain rats are caught in the trap." Hiruzen gave a small nod, before Itachi left to rejoin the group. Turning back towards his friends, "Anyway, the reason I called you three here is to see if you recognize the ambassador or anybody on his envoy." Danzo spoke up, because like a certain pervert, he has his own little spy network set up, mainly because he doesn't fully agree on who the Toad has as most of his spies. "The ambassador seems familiar, along with one or two members of his envoy, yet I would need to be here with you in order to confirm some suspicions." The other two elders nodded at this. "Agreed," Kohara said, especially since one of them seemed to fit the description of one of the Kumo ninja Kushina described that tried to kidnap her all those years ago. "Well, either way, we need to make sure that our security is up for double duty," Hiruzen said, getting nods of agreement from the trio. Back to the hero. It is night time, and it has been quite a few hours since Naruto's and Misaki's shopping trip came to an end, along with dealing with store owners/employees trying to throw him out, only for them to be threatened to lose a lot of business from three major ninja clans of Konoha, one of them being the Hyuga, which is considered royalty, and except for one or two brave fools, nobody wanted to risk losing big bucks due to their so-called justified bigotry. When they started to head back from the ramen stand, some of the villagers decided to become brave enough to build up a mob, with a little support from the civilian council, and decided to stop the demon from brainwashing innocent young girls before he makes them give birth to his spawn. While the Anbu and Root were getting ready to step in once the mob started to surround the kids, a bright light appeared out of nowhere, blinding everybody beyond belief. When it died down, everybody opened their eyes to receive a big shock, because standing there before them, looking like they are defending the fox boy and the girl, were Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash, and Kushina Uzumaki, the red-hot-blooded habanero, and both look like they are about to have a field day. While there are those thinking that the fourth just came back to finish the job, everybody else knew better. With the Anbu and Root on standby, even if they weren't facing them, they can still tell that these two were about to dish out some serious punishment. A good portion of the mob had a feeling that they were the true targets, and ran out of there to get away from their wrath, some of them with really messy shorts. Yet, unknown to just about everyone, there was somebody looking down on them, literally. From an empty window, somebody sporting a Kumo headband was shocked to see this last-minute arrival. There was a plan set out for this night, one that was perfectly planned to help Kumo gain a lot of power, but this really changes everything. One of the poor fools decided to step up. The fourth has returned to finish off the demon. This person, a woman, yelled out. Minato crossed his arms, his face showing deep disappointment in this village that he risked his life for. Feeling the anger coming off from his wife, along with the cracking of her knuckles, these fools will be drinking their food for a long time. And the way he is feeling now, with each added insult, he is more than willing to help her, as long as he doesn't get caught in the crossfire. And where is the demon? Minato asked, shutting people up, because the last thing I remember is fighting a nine-tailed fox that stood taller than the Hokage monument. Well, that is not entirely true. The Shinigami gave him and Kushina a brief summary of what went on before returning them to the land of the living. But there is no real reason to tell these fools that. While the ones watching couldn't help but smirk at that response, having to hear it more than once whenever they had to save Naruto's life, the ones down below were gobsmacked. They thought that their chances of getting rid of the demon has finally arrived, but instead, their hero is defending the brat. Lord Hokage, why are you defending the demon that killed you? One of them yelled out. Minato looked at Naruto, remembering what it is he would need to talk with him about once there aren't so many ears listening in. I remember sacrificing myself to seal the Kyuubi into Naruto, meaning that I wasn't killed by it, he said before facing the crowd, and the seal I designed was to help keep the Kyuubi at bay, as long as Naruto is still alive. Kushina decided to step in. And how exactly does one go around declaring a child is a demon? She asked. What exactly does a child have to do be treated like they are some kind of criminal? Oh, shut up, you Uzumaki whore. One woman yelled out. You were the one who brought the Kyuubi here so that you can have the fourth to yourself. When a small few chanted their agreement with her, Kushina looked like she was really reaching her boiling point. Minato, on the other hand, while he hated how some people would say that to his wife, especially the ones who still seemed to be pining for him, but he did pick up something from the crowd when they started to accuse Kushina of being the one to bring the Kyuubi into the village. How long did you suspect it? He asked, causing Kushina to sizzle down when she finally noticed it as well. How long did you suspect that me and Kushina were married? Kushina, her eyes widening when she caught on. How long did it take for you to suspect that Naruto was our son? She asked, while stepping in front of Naruto and Misaki, making sure nobody tries for a cheap shot. This was when a more welcoming presence made himself known. I believe it might have been the same week everyone was still recovering from the attack. Everyone turned to see Hiruzen walking in with a couple of his Anbu by his side. They might think everybody is oblivious to their true intentions, but they aren't exactly silent about it. Yeah, no kidding, Kushina said, while giving some of the women a dangerous look. You should have seen the death threats I received just because Minato only had eyes for me. While this was going on, Naruto's instincts were going off, sensing danger. Misaki was the only one to notice, and it was her voice that got some of the adults' attention. Naruto, what's wrong? She asked. Naruto's eyes activated, giving Minato and Kushina a bit of a shock at what their son has. I don't know, I have a bad feeling in my stomach, he started to say, before noticing something shiny at a window. Look out! Hiruzen, and the sane adults, along with a couple of the lesser sane ones, looked to see the Kumo shinobi just as he thrown a kunai. The nearest root agents jumped in right after to have him arrested. When Hiruzen and his Anbu prepared to deflect it, they, along with Minato and Kushina, noticed something extra attached to it, so Kushina grabbed the kids just as they all jumped out of the way. Just in time, since once the kunai landed, it created a big enough explosion to scare most of the mob away. The only ones left behind are those two injured by those who ran over them while panicking and those who have enough heart to help those that are injured. When everybody landed, Kushina kept the kids in her grip just to be safe. Although her mother side is saying she wants to make up for all the missed hugs she had with Naruto, while her girly side is trying to break out due to how her son looks like something that just says cuddle me. Hiruzen was the first to step up. Are all of you all alright? He yelled out. While the healthy ones were saying they were okay, along with saying what the condition is of their friends are, there was still one stubborn idiot. We would be fine if it wasn't for. This was when Minato stepped up. Don't you dare blame any of this on Naruto. He said, the mob being the gist of how much hell Naruto had to go through because him. What just happened falls upon you, and whoever convinced you to try this pathetic stunt. The same idiot spoke up, not realizing how deeper in the hole that he is putting himself and his friends in. What, you're saying that we have all been set up by that shinobi that came with the Kumo ambassador? He said, not wanting to believe that the demon was bait. Confirming what he suspected, this was when the root agent showed up with a now tied and sealed Kumo assassin. Was this the one that filled your head with nonsense? Hiruzen asked. Now said idiot decides to open his month, while the ANBU with medical training popped in to help the now shocked villagers. Wait, you're the one that told us that we could get away with killing the demon brat. He yelled out. The Kumo shinobi couldn't help but laugh at their stupidity. Don't blame me for your stupidity, he said, pretty much calling them pathetic. You were just a distraction so that me and my friends could complete our mission. All this did was confirm some suspicions he and his friends have had since they overheard Naruto's comment. And care to give us some of the specifics of your mission? Hiruzen asked, causing the man to laugh harder, indicating that he has no intention of blabbing his mission so willingly. Or should we have Ibiki use his charm on you? Now this shut the Kumo ninja up, because Ibiki was known as the shinobi horror story, of what were to happen if you got caught crossing Konoha in any way. You can't do that, I have diplomatic immunity. This was when, once again, a voice rang out, which goes away once you try to do something that has political consequences, like trying to assassinate a Kage. When everybody turned towards the source, the Kumo ninja paled, not just because of Danzo with some of his root ninja, but because standing there was Hayashi Hyuga and Fugaku Uchiha, with his two comrades unconscious, each one being carried by a pair of their clansmen. Or tried to kidnap the children of certain clan heads. And don't worry, you should be meeting the person in charge of the whole operation at our TI building. Hiruzen said, indicating to the only one awake that their cover was blown sooner than expected. ANBU, Root, take them to the dungeons. The ones that held the prisoners, or took the two from Hayashi and Fugaku, nodded before leaving in a cloud of smoke. Danzo spoke next, continuing where his friend left off. Those of you helping the wounded, take them to the hospital to be taken care of. The ANBU, both medic and non-medic, nodded before carefully picking up the injured villagers, and carried them off to a more suited location. He then turned towards what's left of the crowd. The rest of you go home, you will be summoned to answer for what you just attempted to do. When the people started to leave, Hiruzen intercepted the idiot before he could speak, and for once, keep your mouth shut, you are already in enough trouble as it is. Before the idiot can shove his foot any more deeper, two of his pals walked up and dragged his sorry ass away. While as much as they want to glare at Naruto, they didn't want to deal with Kushina, considering how they know what she is like when pissed off. When it was just them, Hayashi was the first to speak up. Well, Lord Hokage, Minato, Kushina, Naruto, Misako, Fugaku, I bid you all of you my farewell. He said before walking away. Then he turned briefly, and I'll make sure to bring Asami with me tomorrow so that she will welcome you back herself, even though I would have to keep it a secret tonight. When the Hyuga left, Fugaku stepped up, who decided to be his true self this time. I will be taking my leave as well, he said, before turning towards Hiruzen, and I should have everything needed for that thing we have talked about. When he turned towards the two people, who are among his closest friends, and Kushina, I'm pretty sure Mikoto would be more than glad to see you again. When his back was turned, he gave off a slight shiver, after she pounds my ass and tosses it onto the couch for at least a month. When it was just a duo again, well, I'll make sure to have some of my root ninja watching over you just to be safe. Danzo said before walking away, while thinking how he has to get ready to protect the village once word spreads that Minato and Kushina were back, and who their son is. Hiruzen gave a small smile, especially trying not to laugh as he watches Kushina smothering Naruto to death in a hug, trying to catch up for lost years. While Misaki stood to the side, not sure on what to think, and Minato was gobsmacked at how quickly his wife went from serious to loving. Well, as much as I want to hear the full story of what happened, Minato, I'll let you and your family spend the next day or two catching up with each other, he said, feeling that the village can wait a bit longer before Minato and Kushina announce their big return. Thanks, Hiruzen, although I'm not sure where to stay, Minato said, giving the old man a grateful smile, before turning towards his wife. Kushina, you might want to loosen your grip before Naruto runs out of air. Kushina opened her eyes to notice her son was starting to turn blue, so she quickly released him. When Naruto started to regain his breath, Sorry Naruto, she started to say, while she and Misaki were rubbing his back. Hiruzen gave a small chuckle at the scene. Oh, don't worry about it, the house you bought is still around, he said, getting Minato's attention. I took over ownership before the civilian council could get their hands on it, and I was going to give it to Naruto once he met one of your circumstances. But since you're both back, then all 4 of you can move in tonight. Kushina spoke up this time, after hearing that she will be returning home with her whole family this time around. Thanks Gramps, she said, while Naruto was able to stand back onto his feet. We'll stop by Naruto's apartment to pick his stuff up along the way. Hiruzen gave a small nod, and Naruto, don't worry about your apartment, the seals I placed on there are remaining strong, he said, seeing a relief sigh come out of the boy. I will take my leave now, preparing the necessary paperwork for the upcoming council meeting. When it was just the family, along with Misaki, they all started off towards Naruto's apartment. As much as they wanted to talk to each other, the one thing they agreed on is would be better to wait until they were within the safety of their own home. While walking, word was already spreading that the Yandane was back, and to the shock of so many, he was walking side by side with the QB brat. And to the dread of the female portion, Kushina was back as well, and they were holding hands. While they were used to Minato's fan club talking bad about Kushina, yet they were angry at the things people had to say about their son. From him being evil enough to control a Kage, but also, how he was brainwashing the girl to bring more demons into the world. At this point, both parents knew that the biggest thing they can do to make up to Naruto for his life of hell is to make sure he becomes strong enough to defend himself against anybody, while they make sure to be ready to fight anybody who tries to destroy their family. When they reached the building, they felt disgusted with all the hate graffiti on the wall. From death threats to demanding him leaving the village, how could anybody claim to be brave if all they do is torment one child? When they reached his door, an ANBU was waiting for them, one with a cat mask. Don't worry Naruto, the seal is still intact, and we have stopped anybody from trying to break in to destroy your place, she said before turning towards Minato and Kushina, and Lord Hokage's requests that the whole family be at his office sometime around noon. Your seal should still be there. After giving her the nod so she can leave, Naruto placed his hand onto the seal, unlocking it. When they stepped inside, while the place was cleaned, and had the bare essentials, what depressed the parents the most was that a child was being forced to live like an adult. All alone, no toys or anything of joy that a child should experience, just an empty apartment to return to for so long. Come on, Naruto, Misaki said, let's go get our stuff. Yeah, good thing we left most of it in the bags, Naruto replied, as both kids left. When the kids left, the parents took a small look around. It didn't take them too long to see that their son had almost next to nothing by any means. From only a few days' worth of dishes in the cupboards to the rundown furniture, this was definitely no place for a child to live in by themselves. In some ways, they felt extreme guilt because they unintentionally became the catalyst of what Naruto had to grow up without. When Naruto stepped out of the bedroom, they watched as he went to grab a garbage bag from under the sink. Naruto, what are you doing? Kushina asked. Well, some of things that I just got today are still in the bags. Everything else, I don't have anything else to carry them in, Naruto said. This was when Minato stepped up. Do you know about storage seals, Naruto? He asked, getting a confirming nod in return. Do you have a blank scroll? When Naruto nodded and went back to his room to find one. His parents not too far behind. When they see the bedroom, it leads them to another decision right away, to help Naruto actually have a decent childhood while he still has one. Although they might need some help in that department, even though they don't yet realize that they already have it. When Naruto walked up with the scroll, Minato took it and opened it on top of the bed. Using some ink he found somewhere, Minato drew a seal on the scroll that was ready to be used once finished. Okay Naruto, Misaki, put everything onto the scroll. When all was said and done, Minato activated the seal, making everything vanish in a puff of smoke. He then re-rolled the scroll and placed it into his pocket. When they looked around, Kushina was the one to speak up. Okay everyone, let's go home for the first time together. Namikaze's house next day. The sun is shining its way onto the village, giving a fresh start for so many others. Or in the case of Minato and Kushina, their first day back in the land of the living. After spending a good portion of the night talking to Naruto and Misaki, catching up with what Naruto's life was like, at least the parts he can remember, while also learning the full truth to Misaki, they felt like they got a slap to the face. While they are grateful for most of their friends finally stepping up to help Naruto out, along with Hiruzen, Kakashi and a few others, yet the two people they hoped would be here for him have never showed up. Or rather, laughed, when they heard how Naruto got Jiraiya caught doing his favorite pastime, yet that was about it. Now they have to ask Hiruzen about the perv, and Tsunade. Anyway, when the parents stepped out of their bedroom, stretching their limbs, getting used to having a body again, they walked towards one of the guest rooms, where Naruto and Misaki are. The reason why they are in a guest room, well, when they died, Naruto's room was built as a nursery, so it needed to be fixed up for a child his age, and Misaki just didn't want to leave him alone last night. When they reached the room, Kushina opened the door, and couldn't help but give a slight ah. The reason why, well, Naruto was sleeping behind Misaki, with his arms wrapped around her belly, her hands on top of his, while his tails covered both of them like a furry blanket. In some ways, at least to Kushina, waking them up should be considered a crime. Minato was smiling as well, since it was almost like seeing a mini version of himself and his wife, minus the perverted part. The only key difference being, too bad you don't have any tails. Were Naruto's furry appendages. Minato gave a small sigh, because he hopes that his wife gets over it in the future. Come on, as much as I want to let them sleep, by now, the village will be in a buzz about our return. Minato said, causing Kushina's smile to drop, and we need to start setting the story straight ASAP about a lot of things. Getting a small sigh, along with a confirming nod, along with reminding them what we would do if they tried to mess with our family, she said, as she walked into the room to wake the pair up. Minato just watched, knowing that he would be asked if he would be taking the Hokage hat back from Hiruzen, who he can picture begging him to do so. While he knows that what Kushina just said doesn't seem quite ethical, especially for a Kage's wife, but right now, he is thinking screw the ethics. This village hurt his son, and even when it does get proven that both Kushina and Naruto are his family, they would try to undermine certain laws in order to attack them. If any of them think they can walk all over him to attack his family, they will have another thing coming to them.